Good morning, Lawnerd. Happy Thursday. It's a busy one. Thank you for the slightly bumped time today because we had a big announcement this morning coming out of New Mexico where Alec Baldwin and Hannah Gutierrez Reed were charged with involuntary manslaughter. I'm going to be breaking down those charges today, what they mean, what the DA is going to be looking for, what they're going to have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt if this goes to trial. How does the civil settlement that we know Baldwin's already entered into with Helena Hutchins' family play into this? What does that mean? And to answer your questions. And then we are going to get into the 50 plus page search warrant that has been unsealed with regard to Brian Koberger in the Idaho case. It's a lot today, but it's all, look, I'm a former district attorney, so we're all doing criminally things today. So today is a day we're talking about crime today. It's going to be a thing, but I think there's probably a lot of questions about involuntary manslaughter. My chair is, of course, giving me the business. Lots of questions about involuntary manslaughter. What are the charges? What does it mean? What has to be proven? And where do we go from here? I've also got the full press release from the Santa Fe district attorney. So thanks to those who sent it to me, so we can go over exactly what the DA said, then some of the news reporting on it, then go over the charges, then go over what it means. I've got coffee. I've got Cursey words. I've got Cursey words after the first few minutes of the video because YouTube, but go ahead and let me know where you're coming in from, what you're drinking. And thank you to the New Mexico DA for announcing this prior to Coffee and Cursey words starting. I mean, I feel like the timing was good. So we're going. Let me know where you're coming in from. Let's roll the intro. Let's get started. Y'all have a lot of questions. I already see them in the chat. Let's get started. Replay crew, love you. There will be timestamps. We have a lot to talk about today.
Hey there, I'm Emily D. Baker, the internet's go-to legal analyst, breaking down the legal side of the pop culture and entertainment stories we can't stop talking about. I'm a big fan of the Cursey words. I've been a licensed attorney for over 17 years, but this is not legal advice. This is where the law nerds unite to talk about facts, not... Let's get into it.
It's good to see you guys coming in. It's good to see where you're coming in from all over the world today. Well, all over the world every day to talk about things. I do have to share something before we get into all of the rest of it. Irene coming in from Albuquerque, New Mexico. We're going to be talking about New Mexico a lot. We see espresso in Dubai. It's good to see you guys. We've got to talk about something first because I have to share. Some of you might know what I'm going to share because you were on the members only live stream last night. No, we're not sharing the book. The book stays between us members, but I am part of a show that was on Hulu that was released last night. It's an ABC News program that is with Nightline called Impact X Nightline. It's their weekly show. They did a breakdown of the Jen Shah of it all. And I am in that show. So that dropped early this morning. Real Housewives, the real life of Jen Shah, episode 12 on Hulu on Impact. So you get to see lots of me in that. If you have Hulu and choose to watch, it's my understanding from the members that this is only available in the US. So apologies to all of that. I have no control over some of these things. ABC, we have a very international audience. We need international accessibility. But also, yesterday's podcast is sponsored by NordVPN. So do what you will with that information. So this is live now if you want to go see me on Hulu in not the setup that I'm normally in. See me on TV, doing TV things. Doing television-y things. I'm there. So talking about Jen Shah. What I really appreciated about the Impact special, and I'll be sharing more about it on social. What I really appreciate about the Impact special is they did seek out victims of this crime to talk to. So we not only see the designer that worked with Jen Shah and for Jen Shah in seasons 1 and 2, who's shared on social media about that experience not being the best, but we also hear from victims, and we also hear from, me. We also hear from a former AUSA from the Southern District of New York. So there's lots of information there. So if you have Hulu, Uh, that is over there on Hulu. Go check it out and see what you think, and let me know what you think. I always am happy to share with you when I am places other than this. I'm still looking for the link to the last time I was on Court TV. So we need to get into all of the content, but that's my plug to go share it. I'll be sharing on social media clips from the show. So if those of you who don't have Hulu, don't want Hulu, don't watch the show, I'll be sharing clips. And if it's released anywhere else, I will share it. Most Hulu content ends up on Disney Plus in Europe. I hope so. I hope so. All the same parent companies. So, and I didn't curse, not even once. I probably could have, but I didn't. I reined it in. I reined it in. All right. With that, we have to get into breaking news. And again, I don't often cover breaking news because generally there's a lot to take in, but we've been following, or I've been, all of us, we've been following the Rust case so much that I feel like this was a natural culmination of where we were going with the Rust case. They had to know that this was coming. The DA has taken an in a long period of time. I didn't want to say extreme or excessive because all things in due time. And I do regularly say I would rather have a slow and steady prosecution than a rush to justice, or a rush to judgment in some cases. I would rather have it take its time. But this took a while, and we know it's been months, and they've had the final investigative reports from not just the FBI, but also from police in Santa Fe. So it was, it really did take some time. So this is an interesting one. We're going to go through exactly what the district attorney said in their press release. We're going to go through some of the media reporting on it. If there's a statement from Alec Baldwin himself, I'll go look for it. I've seen reports of statements from from his attorney, and we'll go from there. So let's get into what the DA said in New Mexico. The DA filing charges in the Rush shooting for immediate release, Santa Fe, New Mexico. First Judicial District Attorney Mary Carmack, I don't know how to pronounce the last name, Altwies, announced on Thursday. I need to go back and find some of the press conferences for how to pronounce this DA's, but this is the DA in this district. The head DA is making this announcement. So, New Mexico First Judicial District Attorney, in keeping with her commitment to pursue justice for victims and to hold everyone accountable under the law, her office, before the end of the month, will file criminal charges in the Rust film set shooting. I'm sorry. So is your press release to tell us that you're going to do a thing? Do the thing and then tell us. Why are you telling us you're going to do a thing? I'm going to do the thing. Okay. Are they waiting to file charges till they go arrest somebody? Are you going to do a grand jury? Are you going to grand jury trial? Are you going to, not trial, are you going to grand jury charges and indict them? The news reporting on this has not been charges will be filed. For what I've seen, it's charges filed. Charges aren't filed yet. So the DA has very plainly said before the end of the month, they will file criminal charges. Then why make the announcement now? Like, I need coffee. I'll speculate on why the announcement now later. Oh, that's good coffee. Rust actor and producer Alec Baldwin and armorer Hannah Gutierrez Reed will each be charged with 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter in the death of Helena Hutchins. 2 counts. We're going to talk about that because we're going to talk about involuntary manslaughter, but Helena Hutchins is just one person. I don't know if they have multiple theories of the case or different degrees of, well, involuntary manslaughter is the degree. We're going to have to talk this through, y'all. We've got to talk it through. 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter in the, it very plainly says will each be charged with 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter in the death of Helena Hutchins on the film Santa Fe County set in 2021. Assistant Director Dave Halls has signed a plea agreement for the charge of negligent use of a deadly weapon. I haven't seen that widely reported either. I'm going to have to go update my Instagram reel. So he's already pled guilty. So David Halls, the AD, has already pled guilty, has signed a plea agreement for the charge of negligent use of a deadly weapon. He could have been charged with involuntary manslaughter. When I did the very first content on this, breaking down what involuntary manslaughter was, I went through in that podcast episode, The Emily Show, if you haven't checked it out. I went through that podcast episode and went through who did I think could be charged and what could they be charged with. Involuntary manslaughter is one of the things I thought they could absolutely be charged with. So, am I missing screen sharing? No, I'm not screen sharing because this is a press release that was sent to me. So it's just in my notes. It's being reported on. I have not seen the actual press release anywhere. I've just seen it reported on. So instead of somebody else's speculation, you get my speculation. Because I hadn't seen discussion of the plea agreement. But again, this all just came down this morning. So Dave Halls has signed a plea agreement for the charge of negligent use of a deadly weapon. That's interesting. That's interesting. Real interesting, actually, because he's probably given them quite a lot of information. And that's an interesting thing. I don't know why my mic's sounding low. I'm seeing some of you say it. So we've pumped up the volume. So thanks. But yes, hopefully we're not too loud. So that's interesting. Okay. The terms of the plea deal. The terms include a suspended sentence and 6 months of probation. Well, how long is the suspended sentence? Here's what a suspended sentence is. A suspended sentence is, here's an amount of time that you will get if you fuck up. We're 11 minutes in. We can say that now, right? This is the amount of time you'll get if you mess up. There was a judge I worked with that when people came in and were like, this time's different. This time's it's going to change. This time we've got it. We're going to do the thing. We're not going to commit crime. I have changed my life. I've found Jesus, whatever it is. And the judge is like, fine. I'm going to suspend a sentence of 10 to whatever many years. Normally 10. It normally started with 10 and up. I'm going to suspend that time. And if you come in on a violation, you're just serving that time. Is that what you want to do? Because if you've changed, and the defense attorneys are like, this is a bad deal, my guy. Don't do this. Let's go through. Let's not do a suspended sentence. Let's figure something else out. That's a lot of time. And I'm looking at your track record. So a suspended sentence can be some amount of time that if something else happens, which again, this case is kind of an anomaly because it was very negligent, but it's not as if people went out with criminal intent to murder someone. This is a negligence-based case. So do I think Dave Halls will mess it up? No. Do I wonder if the suspended sentence is tagged to Dave Halls' cooperation with the prosecution? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yes, I absolutely do. So Dave Halls signed a plea agreement. He must have been charged already then. So it seems like from this press release, has been charged and pled. It seems that he is cooperating. This is me reading into what they're saying. It seems that he is cooperating. The terms include a suspended sentence and 6 months probation. A copy of the plea agreement will be available after it's been filed with the court. I need that immediately. I will call the court. No charges will be filed specific to the non-fatal shooting of Rest Director Joel Souza. So no assault charges, no assault with a deadly weapon charges. That's interesting. That's interesting. Quote, after a thorough review of the evidence and the laws of the state of New Mexico, I have determined that there is sufficient evidence to file criminal charges against Alec Baldwin and other members of the Rust film crew, the district attorney said. On my watch, no one is above the law, and everyone deserves... Why did it cut out? Hold on. Oh, it cut out. Everyone deserved... the end of it cut out, but I'm imagining it says everyone deserves justice. I'm going to put on my district attorney brain and think that that's probably what that says, but I don't have the last word of that press release. So, cause copy paste. Interesting that Dave Halls has already entered into a plea and is probably working with the prosecution. Alec Baldwin will be charged. Hannah Gutierrez will be charged. I wonder if they are waiting to charge them until they are arrested and they will arrest them and charge them at the same time, or if they are negotiating surrenders. Negotiating a surrender means that the attorneys and the district attorney or the individuals in the district attorney talk and say, hey, I'll come in and surrender myself to custody. I'll get booked and released. And then we'll go along the criminal process and then you'll file charges. So this might be that they are negotiating a surrender on this. So let's take a look at what involuntary manslaughter means. I appreciate that the district attorney made it very clear that there will be no charges filed to Russ Director Joel Souza. How do you get to 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter, though? The lawyer in me needs to know. But involuntary manslaughter goes to this being an avoidable accident in the eyes of the district attorney. When you get to involuntary manslaughter, it means that you didn't intend for the thing to happen, but that you were criminally negligent in some way that allowed the thing to happen. So that's where we're getting to that. I'm going to pull up the statute. And this is the Justia one that I pulled up quickly is from 2019. Could the language have changed in the last few years? Yes. Is it unlikely? Also, yes. These statutes tend to all be about the same. Jurisdiction by jurisdiction, the language tends to be kind of from the model penal code. So let's see. All right. Manslaughter is the unlawful killing of a human being without malice. For those of you in the Idaho case that were like, why did they say the killing of a human? It's because it's generally in the statute. It's in the charging documents, and it needs to be pled and proven, because when you get to killing of things that are not humans, there in some jurisdictions are other charges for that depending on the circumstances. So all of these will make very clear that manslaughter deals with human beings being killed and not animals being killed and things like that. Those have different and discrete charges. So A, voluntary manslaughter consists of manslaughter committed upon a sudden quarrel or in the heat of passion. That's not the case here. This is not a heat of passion or sudden quarrel. This isn't people in a bar fight where somebody fell and hit their head and then died. And those do happen and people do get charged with involuntary manslaughter. Or this is the voluntary manslaughter. So that's not us. We're not in the voluntary manslaughter realm. B, involuntary manslaughter. Involuntary manslaughter consists of manslaughter committed in the commission of an unlawful act not amounting to a felony, or in the commission of a lawful act which might produce death in an unlawful manner without due caution or circumspection. This is the part that we're in, this second part. I don't think that they're going to allege that there was an unlawful act. There wasn't unless there are specific laws, and this might very well be that there might be specific laws about it is illegal to have live ammunition on a movie set, and therefore the possession of that is actually illegal. I doubt it, though. I think what we're looking at is the second part of this, or maybe they're pleading both parts of it, and that's how we get to 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter when one person has been killed. That they're charging the kind of part 1 and part 2. But I think what we're at really is part 2, the commission of a lawful act, filming a movie that might produce death because there's a gun involved in an unlawful manner. You don't have the right to kill someone without due caution or circumspection. And that's where we get to due caution and circumspection being the criminal negligence part of this statute. So with involuntary manslaughter, criminal negligence is required when there is a lawful act. So when we get to this second part, there's that additional element that is going to have to be proven. When we look at the elements of the offense, you're going to have to prove criminal negligence. So which it's like, Emily, what is due caution and circumspection? Well, you need criminal negligence. Emily, what is criminal negligence? Well, it's a general recklessness. Emily, what is a general recklessness? Well, when you get to general recklessness, it's should you have done something that you didn't do, and did you know you should have done something that you didn't do? And in this case, where we have live bullets in a gun on a movie set being pointed at a person and the trigger being manipulated, pulled, discharged, or whatever, I think we have an argument to say, well, is that is that in the level of criminal negligence? Are we going to get to a general recklessness there? And who else was reckless? The armorer, and we read this in Alec Baldwin's own lawsuit against or countersuit in the civil lawsuit with regard to Mamie Mitchell, the script supervisor. Did you see me close my eyes to think? That's how much I needed to dig back into how many lawsuits there are in this case. So in the Mamie Mitchell suit, they disclosed a lot of the FBI report saying that one of these things is not like the other as to the bullets, and it was noticed by Dave Halls and noticed by Hannah Gutierrez Reed, and they didn't do anything. And then with Alec Baldwin, he didn't check the gun. If this goes to trial, this is going to be a big fight over industry standards. Should he have checked the gun? Should he have not have checked the gun? Should he have pointed the gun at somebody? Should he have not pointed the gun at somebody? And everybody else on set testifying whether Helena Hutchins, who was killed, told him to point the gun directly at her or not. If that's standard practice, if you never point a gun at somebody, if you point a gun at the camera, but only when people are out of the way of the camera, etc., it's going to go to whether Alec Baldwin's actions are reckless and criminally negligent in a way that does not meet industry standards. He is going to argue immediately, I was told by the armorer I needed to not check the gun. I'm not allowed to check the gun. And we've already seen other actors come out and say, yeah, no, we always check the gun. And I don't know, would he have known that one of the bullets was different? Would he have been able to perceive that? I don't know. And that's where we're going to get here. But I think not versus the ammo. If I'm the district attorney in this case, I'm arguing that the ammo is not Alec Baldwin's problem. The ammo is not the issue. It's the pointing a weapon directly at someone and pulling the trigger. That's the negligence. That's the avoidable negligence. That shouldn't have happened on a movie set no matter what. With anything in the gun, with the gun at all, that could have been done other ways. I think that's where the district attorney will argue, not that he should have known exactly what ammo was or wasn't, but that he never should have pointed a weapon at someone ever, period. And if that is the industry standard, then we will see them saying, and we know it's negligent because the industry standard is that when weapons are pointed directly at the camera, but only when the crew is out of the way. That's why there's monitors, so that the cinematographer can watch on the monitor and direct action without being literally in the line of fire. So I understand with regard to Hannah Gutierrez Reed. Hannah Gutierrez Reed, from what we've seen of the FBI report, was talking about wonky bullets and shaking the box of bullets, but not the others. I can understand it. Hannah Gutierrez Reed was in charge. And this, I imagine, is not a surprise. Hannah Gutierrez Reed will probably argue that their job was hampered by others on the movie set, that Dave Halls was doing this, that, and the other, and took the gun, and she wasn't there when this happened. But at the end of the day, she's the one responsible for this weapon. She was hired to do that role. And do I have empathy? Yes. She's young. Does it seem like she was being pushed around on this set? Yes. But you're in charge of the weapons, and weapons are deadly. So that's where the DA is going to come down with, okay, but you're the one in charge of the weapons, even if others were trying to override your job, even if others were making your job harder. And I think that's why we see both Hannah Gutierrez Reed and Alec Baldwin being charged. You know what we don't hear anything about? Oh, and this movie is getting set to start filming again. I wonder if that's why charges are coming down now, because this movie is getting ready to start production again. I imagine that it's not going to start production again because of this. So I saw the question from Just Call Me Hen, who loaded the gun. Hannah Gutierrez Reed loaded the gun. Were there monitors on set? Not this day. Steve, that's a great question. Not this day. This day, there were not monitors on set because the Union IATSE film crew had walked off set because there were issues with how far away they were having to travel, and there were safety issues. Baldwin in his lawsuit says that those safety issues were not the reason that the other camera operators left, but they took Video Village with them when they left set. So everything that went down on this set, and there had been multiple misfires with the gun, which also I think puts Hannah Gutierrez Reed in where the district attorneys can argue, look, before this day where someone was killed, there were other safety issues and they didn't get addressed clearly. And we know they didn't get addressed, and we know it was negligent, because how does someone die on a movie set by a gunshot wound if there's not negligence? How does that even happen? If things went the way they were supposed to go, no one dies because it's a prop gun. And that would be my closing argument. How do we get there? How do we get there? And I imagine Dave Halls, to save his own ass, which is exactly what people do when civil and criminal charges are coming. People decide to save their own ass. There's no judgment on that. That's exactly what happens. With that, I imagine Dave Halls turned over everything he'd said to Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin, in his lawsuit against Dave Halls and others, in the Mamie Mitchell suit, which I covered, it's a cross complaint that's in the podcast. He said he wasn't told about the safety issues on set. I wonder what the text messages and emails will unearth, and I imagine that Dave Halls has provided those to the district attorney. They also have Alec Baldwin's phone. We know that that was turned over. There was fights about it being turned over, but that was turned over. And we have lots of people involved. These emails are going to have multiple people CC'd. There's no undoing this. And we know that it's not OSHA in New Mexico. It's a different acronym for their safety, the people that oversee workplace safety. We know that they found horrific safety issues, and I covered that too on this set. So I think we have a lot to talk about with these charges. I think Alec Baldwin is being charged because he was the one holding the gun and the one that manipulated the trigger. We're getting a high-pitched whine that is probably a vacuum cleaner. Apologies. There are things it's a day. There are things vacuuming. So I can tell Dr. B to not vacuum, but that should stop shortly. And let's see if I put this in on my audio, if it'll mute it down a little bit so you guys don't hear it. My mic picks things up. Apologies. So with that, Alec Baldwin had his hand on the gun. So I'm not surprised that he is the one that is being charged. I will be interested to see when they do charge, because they haven't charged yet, when they do charge, what the alternate charges are. And it might just be those two alternate theories that we just talked about, or those two parts of the statute. Where is it? The two parts of the statute. Involuntary manslaughter consists of manslaughter committed in the commission of an unlawful act, not amounting to a felony. So if having a live rounds on set is unlawful, then maybe that's why, and maybe they are pleading this part and this part in the commission of a lawful act in the alternative. I don't know. We haven't seen the charging documents. Why? No one's been charged. I think if the tables were turned and Alec Baldwin was the one who was shot, he would want immediate justice. It's very possible. Question, are there more arrests to come? Wondering about the supplier of the ammo. So am I. And this statement mentions everything else and does not mention PDQ. Also, the fact that Alec Baldwin has seemingly settled, I'm sure insurance is still going back and forth on it, but has seemingly settled the wrongful death case to make Helena Hutchins' widower husband a producer on the film and to continue with the film, that doesn't matter to the criminal charges. A civil wrongful death case being settled or not doesn't impact the criminal cases going forward. So that doesn't surprise me either. So let's see. Oh, I'm not. You're right. It's been busy. Look, the members know it's been very busy. Our Roomba is so loud. So today's not the robot vacuum, but with the two cats, we definitely need the robot vacuum, but the robot vacuum is so loud. Let's go look at some of the statements. Alec Baldwin's attorney has already made a statement. I don't know if there are more. I will do a quick noodly Google before, and then we will get into everything else. There's really not much more to say. Will this delay production of the film? That is my big question. They're supposed to go back into production like this month. And I said in the last time I covered this, how the fuck are you going to go back into production on this film when everyone is suing each other? Everyone's involved in lawsuits, just in the Mamie Mitchell suit, and there are more. Right now, I need to go to my notes. Go to the notes. Right now, we have, look, if things have settled in the last week or two, I have not seen anything about it. It's possible. Right now, we have the Armorer lawsuit where Hannah Gutierrez Reed is suing PDQ Arm and Prop and others. We have the wrongful death suit that is Baldwin has settled, but that is still going with production and insurance and companies. That's still happening. We have the script supervisor, Mamie Mitchell's lawsuit, where Mamie Mitchell is suing a whole bunch of people. A lot of them have been yeeted, but the companies and Alec Baldwin are still there. And then Alec Baldwin has countersued Dave Halls and Hannah Gutierrez Reed and everybody. And then Dave Halls has also done the same thing within the script supervisor suit. Just in that civil suit, everybody's suing everybody. Then there's the Gaffer lawsuit from Sven Sventnoy. Then there's the suit from the medic that was on set, Sherilyn Schaefer. Then there's the defamation suit is kind of tangentially related, but not. So there's a lot of civil cases going on. The civil cases don't impact the criminal, if that makes sense. All right. So to answer some of the questions, whoever commits an involuntary manslaughter is guilty of a 4th degree felony. I will go look at what the 4th degree felony sentencing ranges are in New Mexico. I haven't looked. They're generally not, that's a low level felony. So they're generally not that high. Crime and punishment properly separated the fact that a former manslaughter statute merely defined the offense, provided the penalty does not mean the statute was defective. We're going to look at the notes. Look, the important information is always in the footnote in the notes. So we're going to just look at the notes on the law. Manslaughter is one of 4 kinds of homicide. We know that. Manslaughter is one of 4 kinds of homicide. Now you know that, but there's voluntary and involuntary manslaughter, and then you've got the different types of homicides, which are the more intentional killings. Manslaughter is not necessarily included in murder. Information sufficiently particular. Information charging manslaughter, which enumerated the section defining the offense and the section fixing the penalty, did not contravene the Constitution. Permissible to convict accessory of lesser offense. The fact that an accessory was convicted of involuntary manslaughter while the principal was convicted of voluntary manslaughter is permitted. I'd be interested to know that fact scenario. What happened in State v. Holden? I'm curious. Let's see. Involuntary manslaughter, meaning of unlawful. Oh, good. Let's get to definitions. Emily, you should have done this earlier. Should have. Don't worry. When I summarize this on QuickBits this week, it'll all be done in succession. That's why I added the QuickBits podcast. Meaning of unlawful. Subsection A defines voluntary manslaughter as the unlawful killing of a human being. That's voluntary. We don't need that one. Provocative act. We don't need that one. Where is our invol stuff? Words. These are in all of the provocation cases. There's a whole line of case law when you take criminal law in law school about provocation and is provoking someone enough. Like, are their words bad enough that they are provocation for someone to kill you? Words are insufficient provocation. Words alone, however scurrilous or insulting, will not furnish adequate provocation to make a homicide voluntary manslaughter. So it doesn't matter what they said to you. You were not provoked enough. Words alone did not provoke you enough. Words and push insufficient. So, okay, what about the words and then they touch you? Law. Where is our invol? It's got to be, our definitions have to be down here somewhere. This again, accidental killing, that's where we're at. These are still in the there we go. Invol, in general. We knew we'd get to the notes somewhere. Involuntary manslaughter statute excludes all cases of intentional killing. This is just deductive reasoning, but hey, you can't charge someone with voluntary or homicide and then an invol. And yes, I will default to calling them an invol because that is what I've called them my entire career. And sometimes I default into DA brain chat, but an involuntary manslaughter is not intentional. The whole purpose of involuntary is shit went so wrong that someone died and someone's responsible for that, but they didn't intend for that to happen, and they didn't do something that intended for it to happen. Involuntary manslaughter statute excludes all cases of intentional killing and includes only unintentional killings by acts unlawful but not felonious, or lawful but done in an unlawful manner or without due caution and circumspection. The killing must be unintentional to constitute involuntary manslaughter, and there's no evidence here that it's anything but. And if it is intentional and not justifiable, it belongs in some one of the classes of unlawful homicide. Justifiable homicide goes to things like self-defense. That's what they mean when they're saying that. Involuntary manslaughter may be committed by both unlawful and lawful acts. So again, filming a movie with a gun is lawful, but it can still lead to an involuntary manslaughter, and here we are. Distinction between lawful and unlawful acts. I love the case law breakdown on all of this. Welcome to law school, everybody. It's Law Nerds University today. We're going to go through all of the things that the lawyers have to reason their brains out. Do these facts meet these things? And yes, every time I say lawful, unlawful, the chat is just going, but is it lawful law? Yes, this is lawful law. Who is the state of New Mexico? Distinction between lawful and unlawful acts. In distinguishing between unlawful and lawful acts, the statute applies the language defined by courts to mean criminal negligence only to the lawful portion of the statute. So, because I'd already broken down the New Mexico statute before in previous podcasts when I talked about criminal negligence, this is why. In an unlawful act, you don't need to prove that they were criminally negligent because the shit they were doing was already unlawful. So if possession of live ammunition on this set was not against a regulation, but unlawful in some way, then maybe you get to the point where it's like, but just even having the bullet on this set or in this context is unlawful, and therefore you don't need to prove criminal negligence. But I think when you talk about this case, everyone is like, but hey, how is this not criminally negligent? You pointed a loaded weapon at a person. Even if you didn't know it was loaded, you pointed a weapon at a person and pulled a trigger. Is that enough for criminal negligence? And will a jury be like, yep, it is. Yep, doodle. Yep, it is. Yep. What about admiralty law? Well, if you're filming a movie at sea and the ship is flagged in the Bahamas, then New Mexico law does not apply. Not legal advice. Criminal negligence is not an element of involuntary manslaughter by unlawful act. That's what we just talked about. Criminal negligence is required for involuntary manslaughter by lawful act. A killing by lawful act. So assuming that filming the movie the way they were filming it is lawful, and having the gun the way that they had it was lawful, and there is no separate section for having live ammunition where you're not supposed to have live ammunition, assuming that the law has not taken up that very narrow and specific and random circumstance, assuming that, then we have filming a movie being the lawful act. And with filming the movie being the lawful act, we need criminal negligence. A killing by lawful act to be involuntary manslaughter depends on whether the lawful act was done in an unlawful manner or without due circumscription or caution. The phrase without due caution or circumscription has been held to involve the concept of criminal negligence, which includes conduct which is reckless, wanton, or willful. And then the jury's going to be like, but what does reckless mean? Yes. What does reckless mean? And a jury gets to decide. So now we've gotten from involuntary manslaughter to due caution or circumscription to the fact that the case law has decided that that means criminal negligence. And then what is the definition of criminal negligence? Reckless, wanton, or willful. Is the act of pointing a weapon and pulling or manipulating a trigger at someone reckless, wanton, or willful? And that's what a jury is going to have to decide at the end of the day. So when I gave this definition earlier, this is why when we went down to the books, well, we went to the notes because this is how we decide things. This is how we know what the law says. What do those words mean? The law generally defines them. Showing of criminal negligence is required for conviction of involuntary manslaughter, whether based on an unlawful act or lawful act. That's interesting. That contradicts other law. That's from 1996. Reckless disregard of others, merely driving on the wrong side of the road, could be inadvertence and not sufficient to convict, but driving on the wrong side of the road, coming up a hill where visibility was obstructed, showed a heedless and reckless disregard for the rights of others. Hey, I've tried a case exactly like that in San Pedro. I've literally done a manslaughter, a vehicular manslaughter, with that circumstance of coming up a hill. Oh, that's weird. Law is weird. It's weird. It's weird that there's that many people driving on the wrong side of the road up a hill that kills someone, that there's case law on it. And I've tried a case like that in different jurisdictions. My case was horrific. Inadvertently allowing an automobile to encroach upon the wrong side of the road while going up an incline so steep cars beyond its crest may not be seen constitutes a reckless, willful, and wanton disregard of the consequences to others, and will support a conviction for manslaughter if one be killed as a result thereof. From 1954. That's an interesting way to word that sentence. Negligent use of a weapon. Oh, this might be on point. It's weird that people break the law in the same ways. It's weird when these circumstances that seem like they're a one-time case aren't. That this fact scenario happens over and over and over again. And that's one of the reasons when criminal attorneys look at something, be it defense or prosecution, they're like, I can look into my crystal ball and see this and this and that, because these patterns come up. Human behavior has a funny way of repeating itself. The facts might be slightly different, but the overall scenario generally has same things. So it's just strange. It's just strange. And sorry, as you watch me in real time, be like, oh, I didn't like that case. It was a hard case. We're not going to talk about it. We don't talk about Bruno. Let's keep going. The whole chat doesn't need to be traumatized by my prior work life. Negligent use of a weapon seems very on point. Emily, are you going to pull these cases and read them before you do a podcast on this? Probably. Unless my ADHD brain forgets I want to do it, and then I'll end up in the middle of podcast recording going, shit, I meant to do that. We'll find out next week. A conviction of involuntary manslaughter by negligent use of a weapon requires negligence, which is ordinary. Oh, that's interesting. So now we have a different quirk. This is more difficult for Alec Baldwin. This becomes much more difficult for Alec Baldwin. Because this is not criminal negligence. When you have a weapon, we're now at ordinary negligence. That's very interesting. Okay, well, State v. Grubbs and Stanellis versus State and State v. Yarbrough have established that a conviction of involuntary manslaughter by negligent use of a weapon requires negligence, which is ordinary. So ordinary negligence when you have a weapon, because they're like, hey, you have a fucking weapon. So if you have a weapon, negligence is not okay. If you have a weapon, I'm going to have to read that. Ordinary negligence. How is that chargeable? You can't be negligent with a weapon. You got a weapon. That's very interesting. It was a prop. Deborah Doodles. This is a very fair statement, but it's not a prop. It's used as a prop, but these are functioning weapons. These are guns. So it's not a plastic gun. It's not it's not a prop as my squishy gavel is a prop. My squishy gavel is a prop. It's also not a real gavel. It's also very squishy. But these weren't fake guns. It's used as a prop, but it's a real gun. Just like if I was filming something and I was using this as a prop, it's still a real cup. It might be used as a prop because it's in a movie, but it's still a real weapon. So these were real firearms, hence the ability to fire a live bullet and kill someone. But these, though used as prop, are real. So hopefully that clarifies the difference between a prop weapon. So is a prop a weapon? It's a gun. So these were real guns. These were historically accurate guns that were used. Why were they real weapons? Isn't that the question on everyone's mind? I don't know if we've gotten a lot of answers to that. I think on a lower budget film, to get historically accurate replicas and then use special effects would probably be outside of their budget, so they use real guns. People assume because it's a prop, It's not real or dangerous. It's real. I mean, high heels on a set are costuming or could be props, but they're still real shoes. It's still real. And it didn't have, um, isn't it meant to be blanks in the gun? It was meant to be blanks in the gun or the ones that aren't even blanks because it was a revolver. So there's the blanks that fire some, but they also had the completely inert rounds so that on the back of the revolver it still looked like there were rounds in it, but they couldn't even make like a flash like a blank. So it was not even meant to have blanks when he was in the church, and it had live ammo. So, ordinary negligence. So, negligent use of a weapon. A conviction of involuntary manslaughter by negligent use of a weapon requires negligence, which is ordinary. That is very interesting. And this is why we see the DA in New Mexico saying, I've considered all the laws, because the DA in New Mexico knows that for Alec Baldwin, you're at ordinary negligence. And they don't have to prove more than ordinary negligence. And I think the chat, and I don't want to vote because it feels dark, but I think a lot of you on a jury would be like, well, taking a real gun and pointing it at a human and pulling the trigger is negligent. You don't do that. We don't point guns at people. So we're there. Now for Hannah Gutierrez Reed, I think there is an argument that because she was not handling the weapon and she was not using a weapon, that maybe criminal negligence needs to apply to her. But I also think criminal negligence might be easier to find because it's reckless to have live ammo in a gun. I think you might be easier to show the recklessness as to the armorer because actually, what the fuck? So I think you're going to see two different standards of proof. And I don't know if these will go to trial together. They might charge them as separate defendants and separate cases so that Hannah Gutierrez Reed goes to trial and Baldwin goes to trial, or maybe they'll charge them as co-defendants. We don't know yet. They're not charged yet. Use of a firearm enhancement for negligent use. Under the facts of this case, and they're talking about State versus Franklin, the state was required to prove that the defendant negligently used a firearm to commit a non-capital felony, and this conduct resulted in the death of a human being. Use of a firearm is the same conduct required to enhance the defendant's sentence under Section 3118(16)A. Because the state would not be required to prove any additional facts in order to have the defendant's sentence enhanced, the firearm enhancement statute is subsumed within the offense for involuntary manslaughter by negligent use of a firearm. So I wonder if we'll see it charged specifically as involuntary manslaughter by negligent use of a firearm. But what they're saying is there can be a weapon enhancement for charging. So weapon enhancements, depending on the state, add time. So it can add 3 years, 5 years, whatever the state determines. So if you do this thing, it's X amount of years in custody. But if you do this thing with a gun, the gun adds X amount of years in custody. So they're talking about firearm enhancements not needing to be alleged separately because it's already proven. So this is not needing to be pled separately. Angel asked, did he know there were live rounds? There's nothing to show that Alec Baldwin knew or had any reason to know that the rounds in the gun were live. Nothing at all to show that he did. Kristen said, I flew here when I saw the news. I'm behind the stream. Things happened this morning. So, all right. Let's continue on. Thank you, Law Nerds, for being respectful in the chat. I appreciate it. As we talk through difficult topics with polarizing people, I think Alec Baldwin, especially on the topic of guns, can be a polarizing individual. But what we need to make sure, and what we need to remember, no matter how we feel about Alec Baldwin as a human or the interviews that he has given about this case, he still deserves a good defense, and he is presumed innocent until proven otherwise, and he has not been charged yet. We're talking about the facts that happened and what the law might say about those facts and what might have to be proven to a jury. And as to Baldwin, this case is a little bit harder, though I think a jury will feel strongly that pointing a weapon at somebody is a problem. But Alec has room to argue that he was doing his job and had no reason to know any of this. And because he was doing his job in the way he was told to do his job, it's not even negligent. He was doing what he was supposed to do. So it's just a reminder. It's just a reminder that everyone deserves not a rush for judgment. Vulcan says, I thought he was charged. No. The district attorney says they intend to. Look.
The DA in Santa Fe has pledged charges. They're pledged. It's not synonymous with charging. They've only been pledged. It's not synonymous.
This is fair. I thought he has now been charged. They didn't say that yet on the news unless it's happened since we've been live. My title says Alec Baldwin charged. Yes, it does. I'll change it to a question mark afterwards. He has not been charged yet. I'm also confused because all of the media headlines as this was breaking news, and this is why I don't always cover breaking news, as I was covering it, all the headlines say Baldwin charged. Maybe some of them say to be charged. But Alec Baldwin armor two-face charges. So when I read the DA's statement specifically says they will be charged before the end of the month with this. So I think they will actually be charged, but technically they have not been charged yet. So yes, I will change my title to add Alec Baldwin charged ? Instead of period. A lot of the headlines say charged. I know they do. CNN presently says to be charged. Good. So with all of that, he has been charged. Did I say the lawyer's statement? Not yet. We're going to do that next. So they said in the DA's statement this morning, the DA's press release this morning says, Armour, Hannah Gutierrez Reed, Alec Baldwin, and Gutierrez Reed will each be charged with 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter before the end of the month. So let's get back to the law, and then we will go from there. So it's pledged. They will be charged, but they are not charged yet. Are the charges pledged or donated? At this point, they're just pledged. So let us keep going. So thank you, chat, for being amazing. Literally got an updated headline to be charged. Yeah, I think everybody went a little fast. I do that too. It happens. Can we have charged? We can have a goat scream, but also the goat scream goes through the voice changer. The members got to experience me doing this last night.
Because it needed to happen.
So yes, I think people have backed away from Baldwin being charged, but the first headlines I saw today were charged. When I got the actual press release from the DA and started reading it on stream, because I got it as I was going live, that's when it became clear that these charges are coming. These charges are coming by the end of the year, or by the end of the month, not the end of the year. Jeez, end of the month. All right. Let's see. Can someone else bring charges in the DA's name? Not without the approval of the DA. Question. Is it normal to do a press release if you're only pledging charges? Nothing about this case is normal. It's very odd to me. Normally, you release it after they've already been charged. I just wonder if the DA is trying to pressure a surrender agreement so that they don't have to go find Baldwin and extradite him from New York or wherever. I'm wondering if this was a public pressure tactic, and that's why this was released now, because they seemed to release to the media yesterday, and yesterday was super busy, but they seemed to release to the media yesterday that their announcement was coming today, but they have not charged it yet. So I wonder if they're waiting to charge it until they're able to get Baldwin to either agree to surrender himself or to get an arrest warrant to extradite him. But you need charges to be filed before you can get a warrant to extradite him and bring him in to be charged, because he'll have to be arraigned in New Mexico, and he might not agree. He didn't agree to turn his phone over. He might be like, no, fuck you, come get me. No, I'm not going to just help you out and get on a flight to New Mexico. Fuck off. But he might also be like, what I don't want to do is end up on some little prop plane in cuffs getting extradited. So who knows? All right. What we've learned, charges are pledged, and ordinary negligence for use of a firearm, and that the firearm enhancement doesn't have to be charged separately, but there can be a firearm enhancement that adds more time for use of a firearm. Defense to involuntary manslaughter. Defendant charged with involuntary homicide could raise a theory of self-defense and was entitled to a jury instruction on her theory of defense of another. Okay, this is not going to apply. I don't think we have any not even a LaCroix of indication that self-defense would even be appropriate here. There's no indication of that. That fact scenario is not here. Sometimes imperfect self-defense, meaning you think you need to use lethal force, but the law and the facts don't agree and you've decided wrong, can still result in involuntary manslaughter charges, because imperfect self-defense can land you with an involuntary manslaughter conviction. When DAs are not mindful of self-defense and overcharge self-defense cases, then you end up with acquittals. When you go after, if you go with, hey, yes, you used self-defense, but it was not right. It was imperfect self-defense. It was inappropriate for you to use this type of force in this case. You misread the situation badly. In involuntary manslaughter, that maybe is where the charges are more appropriate. But we're not doing a lesson on imperfect self-defense today. This is literally an entire year of law school talking about this kind of stuff. Negligent self-defense is involuntary manslaughter. We don't have negligent self-defense. Accidental shooting and process of imperfect self-defense. So this is a claim of imperfect self-defense does not give rise to the need for an involuntary manslaughter instruction. A claim of accidental shooting might. Resisting search, no. Inflicting a beating is an unlawful act. Thanks for the clarification. Involuntary manslaughter instruction is improper. Inflicting a beating, it's a weird way to language it. Inflicting a beating is an unlawful act, and accordingly, assault and battery. Accordingly, there was no basis for an instruction in involuntary manslaughter by lawful act. Oh, because the assault and battery was unlawful? That makes sense. Nor was there any basis for an instruction on manslaughter by unlawful act. No foundation for involuntary theory. Those are fact specific. Intentional shooting, not involuntary manslaughter. Well, intentional being the word, intentional. Intentional shooting, not involuntary manslaughter. The killing of a person by intentionally shooting them with a rifle, if not justified by the law of self-defense, would constitute at least to an assault with a deadly weapon and would be a felony, hence not an involuntary manslaughter. Homicide by vehicle, careless driving, evidence insufficient. Evidence the defendant was driving an unfamiliar car over relatively unfamiliar roads, that 800 feet north of where an accident occurred, defendant drove over a hill with a 2% grade with a curve. Hills, man! Over a hill with a 2% grade with a curve at the bottom of it and did not slow down. The defendant had consumed 2 beers before the... Oh. Well, there's your vehicular homicide. The defendant had consumed 2 beers before the accident, and that unknown to the defendant. The tire that blew out was defective. This sounds like a series of horrible events. The tire that blew out was defective, even when considered cumulatively. Failure to disclose the state of mind required to show for a conviction under this statute. That, I don't know what happened in State v. Hayes, but it seems like somebody was in a rental car or borrowed car driving somewhere they don't know, had 2 beers, was on a hill, and the tire blew out, and then there was also an accident down the road and somebody died. That fact scenario seems horrible. I've also had cases of involuntary vehiculars where people had been drinking and then there were accidents on the freeway and then all of the traffic stopped rapidly and they could not stop fast enough. But once there's alcohol in your system, it is going to end up in a prosecutor's office for a conversation. Which is why I always say, well, A, don't drink and drive. Uber is fantastic. Don't drink and drive. But also, don't be where you're not supposed to be. Because when shit goes bad, you're going to end up being like, shit, what do I do? I'm where I'm not supposed to be. All right. That's the statute. It looks like ordinary negligence is what's going to be required for Baldwin. That's really interesting. So we've all learned something. Let's go look at statements. The first statement I saw is coming from Deadline. Deadline has had great reporting on this case, so I'm going to them first. I've heard that Chanley Painter has also tweeted a statement. We'll go there. So let us... Alec Baldwin's lawyer calls a Russ shooting criminal charges terrible miscarriage of justice. Well, pending criminal charges, I suppose. I'm trying to be specific, but these charges, it seems like they're inevitable at this point. Update with more details and Hannah Gutierrez Reed's statement. Oh, Hannah Gutierrez Reed has made a statement. Okay, let me update this article and swoop. Okay, statements of Alec. Emily, swoop first. Statements of Hannah Gutierrez Reed and Alec Baldwin. Let's take a look at what is happening. We're just having a breaking news kind of a day. All right. Updated with more details. Following New Mexico First Judicial District Attorney Mary's charging. Statement of intent to charge Alec Baldwin with 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter in the death of DP Helena Hutchins on the set of Rust. The Oscar-nominated actor's attorney has spoken out. Quote, "This decision distorts Helena Hutchins' tragic death and represents a terrible miscarriage of justice." How does it? I have questions about what the word distort means, because maybe we're using it in different ways. She went to work as a cinematographer on a movie set and was shot and killed. It is tragic. It does seem to be an accident in that no one was seeking to kill her. But some accidents are criminal in their negligence. This happens in vehicular law all the time. But someone was killed at the hands of another. That is categorized as a homicide. Whether that is a homicide that's then charged is a whole different decision. But when we're using the law in New Mexico, which is if an involuntary manslaughter is perpetrated with a weapon, it's ordinary negligence. Do we get to ordinary negligence here where someone was killed who never should have been killed? Yes, there is a long chain of circumstances that lead up to that gun being in Alec Baldwin's hand, but he had control and dominion over the gun. So he could have not pulled the trigger. But he's going to argue that she said, well, show me how you cock the gun back. There is a line that led up to bullets ending up in this gun, but also the gun ended up in his hand, and he is the one who pointed it at someone at very, very, very close range. So I can understand when they're looking at a standard of ordinary negligence and someone who died on a movie set in their jurisdiction, how the district attorney is like, we can prove negligence beyond a reasonable doubt. I can see how they get there with an invol. And not all involuntary manslaughters are going to result in custody time. So he relied on the professionals. Let's see. This decision distorts Helena Hutchins. I'm going to try to not interrupt myself. This decision distorts Helena Hutchins' tragic death, and represents a terrible miscarriage of justice. Mr. Baldwin had no reason to believe that there was a live bullet in the gun or anywhere on the movie set. I believe that. That I agree with. There's no evidence that he had any reason to know. However, Emily, you're not going to interrupt yourself. Well, however, there were other safety issues with this gun, and it's still unclear about whether he knew about those. He says he doesn't. Others indicate that he did. He relied on professionals with whom he worked, who assured him that the guns did not have live rounds. Well, one of them is working with the cops and the DA very clearly and has already pled guilty. We will fight these charges and we will win, said Alec Baldwin's attorney, Luke Nicholas of Quinn Emanuel. A bold statement. He didn't do any of the things he was supposed to do to make sure the people around him were safe, said the district attorney on Thursday to CNN about, so there's another statement, not just the press release. They didn't exercise due caution. lack of care on that set. Well, I think we can all agree that there was a lack of care on that set. Somebody doesn't end up dead if there's not a lack of care. An actor doesn't get a free pass just because they're an actor, the prosecutor went on to say, emphasizing Baldwin had been charged as both an actor and producer on the set of Rust. This is outside of their statement. I wonder if this is a video statement to CNN. We'll go look for it. Stating that there was no attempt to arrest Baldwin. The DA also told the cable newser that Baldwin's camp knew the charges were coming. I'm sure they did. The DA also charged Rust Armour with 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter. Hannah is and has always been very emotional and sad about this tragic accident, but she did not commit involuntary manslaughter, said Gutierrez Reed lawyer Jason Bowles this morning. Well, there were live bullets on the set. It was her job to detect them and make sure that they didn't get into a gun. And that didn't happen. But for her loading the gun, this doesn't happen. Right? But also, but for the prop house providing live ammunition, this also doesn't happen. Not in this way. These charges are the result of a very flawed investigation. Attack the investigation. And an inaccurate understanding of the full facts. Y'all, we inaccurately understand the full facts. Here's what I understand. Live bullets were on that set. Lots of them. Not just one. Lots of them. And those live bullets ended up in a gun that ended up in the hand of an actor who then shot and killed a cinematographer. None of that happens, in my opinion, without negligence. Because without negligence, the gun doesn't have fucking live bullets in it. So I don't doubt that everyone involved in this is sad, is horrified, is shook by taking a life. And in involuntary cases, you see that a lot. As I said, I did a lot of vehiculars. Most people don't get in a vehicle intending to kill someone. Some people do. We saw that trial, Daryl Brooks. Some people get in a car intending to kill people. It's the rarer circumstance. A lot of things, or a lot of vehiculars, shit goes sideways. But sometimes those accidents are criminal. It doesn't make the people involved in them any less shaken by the fact that they've taken a life. So I don't doubt that they feel all the feelings. I don't doubt that there is grief and remorse and anger and tragedy. They feel all the feelings. However, but for negligence, someone doesn't get killed on a movie set like this. This isn't someone who fell. There were live bullets in the gun, in the bandolier, on the set, on the armorer tray. Diana said, I'm still trying to understand the 2 counts. How are they getting 2 counts? How are they getting 2 counts each? I don't know the alternative, but these will be pled in the alternative. What I speculated to earlier is that they were pled to the 2 different parts of the involuntary manslaughter statute. But until this is charged and we can see the way it's charged, we don't know. Once we see the way it's charged, it'll be much easier to understand. Right now, we just have to speculate. And here, let us speculate again together real quick. For all of you that have just joined, because we're over 15,000. So some of you have just joined. Hi, I'm Emily D. Baker. Don't forget to do the things. The YouTube things. There's 2 parts to involuntary manslaughter. And so they could have charged the 2 different parts. Involuntary manslaughter consists of manslaughter committed in the commission of an unlawful act, not amounting to a felony. If there is an unlawful act happening on the set, and I have not combed the New York or the New Mexico law to see if something else could have been an unlawful act, is having a gun, an actual gun, a working gun on this film set unlawful in some way? I don't know. Is having the live rounds on the film set unlawful, actually unlawful in some way, like a misdemeanor or some shit? I don't know. But that's one of the theories. The second part of the theory could be in the commission of a lawful act, filming a movie, lawful, which might produce death in an unlawful manner, or, this is the part we're at, without due caution or circumscription. So these are going to be charged in the alternative under different theories, and we'll see what those different theories are when we get more information and when the actual documents are in. I have not seen that those actual documents are in. We'll go to CNN too, but the press release from the district attorney said will be charged by the end of the month. That's what it said. So I'm taking the district attorney at their word on that. We'll go look and see what other statements they made, because it looks like they made other statements. Barbara speculated count 1 as an actor, count 2 as a producer. No, because it's the same person. So I guess maybe those are alternative theories, that the duty owed as an actor is X and the duty owed as a producer is Y, possibly in different capacities on different theories. But Hannah Gutierrez Reed was charged with 2 as well and wasn't a producer. So what theories are, so there's questions. Question mark. Put a pin in it. We won't know until we get the charging document. And we could speculate literally until the goats come home, and we still won't know until we get it. I saw this question just come through the chat. Corinne, will the refilming of Rust now be paused again due to the charges? I don't know. We'll see. It's supposed to start. I imagine so. All right. This is Hannah Gutierrez Reed's attorney, Jason Bowles. These charges were the result of a very flawed investigation and an inaccurate understanding of the full facts. Would you like to explain? We would like to hear. We intend to bring the full truth to light and believe Hannah will be exonerated of wrongdoing by a jury. Okay. In response to the announcement, the attorney for the Hutchins family said, quote, "We want to thank," so this is Helena Hutchins' husband. The attorney for their family said, quote, "We want to thank the Santa Fe sheriff and district attorney for concluding their thorough investigation and determining that charges for involuntary manslaughter are warranted for the killing of Helena Hutchins with conscious disregard for human life." So they must have seen the charges. You don't just put that language in there if they hadn't seen it. So they might just not be filed in court yet, but they've seen it. Our independent investigation also supports charges are warranted. It is a comfort to the family that in New Mexico, no one is above the law. I wonder if, let me finish the statement and then we'll chat. We support the charges. We'll fully cooperate with this prosecution and fervently hope the justice system works to protect the public and hold accountable those who break the law. That is a much stronger statement than the previous statements by Alec Baldwin that they're all working together to refilm this movie. And that they've all kind of, when Alec Baldwin announced that he had settled his part of the wrongful death suit, it was a "we're all good" statement. This statement by Helena Hutchins' husband's attorney is not a "we're all good." This is a we were making nice until we saw what happened, but no one's above the law and we support this. But then the settlement hits weird. It hit weird anyway. But then the settlement feels weird when the husband agreed to be a producer on the refilming of the movie. This is weird. I have more questions. Brian Parrish, I might just need to email you, have you on the podcast. I've got questions. Providing no comment this morning was the collective Rust producers, comprised of the other Rust producers. The first charge of involuntary manslaughter carries an 18-month jail sentence and $5,000 fine in New Mexico. The second charge in the commission of a lawful act. Keep reading, Emily. Somebody's seen these charging documents. It's not me, but it seems like Deadline has. So 2 different theories. The second charge of involuntary manslaughter in the commission of a lawful act requires proof that there was more than simple negligence involved in death. Actually, this is a 4th-degree felony punishable by 18 months in jail and up to a $5,000 fine. Oh my God, you guys, Quick Bits is going to be so good this week. This is going to be so much more concise. By the time I talk about this later today, this will be so much more concise. This is why we live stream, and this is why we added quick bits. Okay, so as I speculated, it seems that Deadline is either speculating or has seen the charging documents that we've got the two different parts of involuntary manslaughter committed in the commission of an unlawful act. I hope we see the charging documents to answer what that unlawful act is, or in the commission of a lawful act without due circumscription. But we know from case law what kind of negligence is needed for Baldwin because he was the one holding the gun. Ordinary negligence, which is going to be hard for them to fight. They make a very bold statement that they're going to fight it and win, but there's a lot of case law that goes against them. All right. The first charge of involuntary manslaughter carries 18-month, $5,000 fine. The second charge of involuntary manslaughter in the commission of a lawful act, I think that's the appropriate charge. I think that's the easier charge to prove. But I don't, again, New Mexico law might make certain things illegal. I need to know what the illegal thing is. Requires proof that there was more than simple negligence. Ordinary negligence with a firearm. But for Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, criminal negligence. This is a fourth-degree felony punishable by up to 18 months in jail and a $5,000 fine. Quote, if any of these three people, Alec Baldwin, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, or Dave Halls, had done their job, Helena Hutchins would be alive today. It's that simple, said Andrea Reeb, the special prosecutor appointed by the DAs to the case. I feel like I said something similar. I feel like we all talked about the but for. And when I read Baldwin's lawsuit, I was shocked at how many live rounds were on this set. Shocked. And shocked about the statements made by Hannah Gutierrez-Reed. Shocked that it was like, hey, Dave Halls opened the gun or looked at the gun and was like, some of these bullets looked different. They're live rounds. If he had just stopped and been like, some of these bullets look different. Let's put a pause on this, or let's just not use the gun right now. Let's get it back to the armorer. If anyone had seen the red flags and not just get bowling through them, someone wouldn't have died. I agree with this statement. The evidence clearly shows a pattern of criminal disregard for the safety on the Rust film set. Dude, the New Mexico Safety Board had a scathing report about workplace safety. Scathing. It's in the Rust playlist. In New Mexico, there is no room for film sets that don't take our state's commitment to gun safety and public safety seriously. Per the DA's office, Baldwin and Reed will be charged in the alternative with 2 counts of manslaughter, meaning that the jury would decide not simply if they were guilty, but under which theory. Assistant Director Dave Halls, I feel like this is a headline that's being buried. Assistant Director Dave Halls, who had informed Baldwin that the prop gun took Hutchins' life was a cold gun, signed a plea agreement for a charge of negligent use of a deadly weapon. The terms include a suspended sentence and 6 months probation. Let's go look at some of the other news. Let's go look at some of the other news. I'm going to get to a few questions and we'll keep looking at some of the other news before we've got time today before we get into that. Warrant. Yeah. Megan, yes. Laura D., I'm an actor, had to fire a gun on set the day the news came in, and I'm shocked Baldwin has been charged unless it's in his capacity as a producer. It seems like it's in both capacities. Laura, thank you for that input. I appreciate it. Gonna ask off the bat, can we go over the new Murdaugh motion to exclude Bud Splatter testimony before trial starts next week? Yes, I need to get my hands on the actual motion, not just reports of it, but yes, we can. Last night, clam, this morning, WAP. Facts. A lot happened on the members only live stream last night. A lot happened. So yes, get your clam off the floor, Linda. Listen, Linda, we needed a moment of levity. I work in theater/film with guns as a PA. I have mixed feelings about the Baldwin charges. Kimberly, that's completely fair. I think there is a room for questions, and in this chat, there is always room for questions and capacity for compassion. There are room for questions where if an actor is handed something and told it is safe, what is their level of responsibility? Actor. As a producer, what is their level of responsibility? And is doing what you're told by a cinematographer, is that enough to get you past this ordinary negligence? There are a lot of questions here as to Baldwin. I think the case is easier for the DAs. It's less of an uphill battle as to Hannah Gutierrez-Reed. She put the bullets in the gun. I think that's a little easier to get to. Like, Your job is to make sure this doesn't happen, and it happened. I think it's a little easier to get to the criminal negligence there. But because Baldwin is handling a weapon, ordinary negligence might be all that applies. His attorneys are going to argue in this circumstance, in these limited specific facts on a movie set, this is an ordinary negligence. And they'll bring in experts that will say he was just doing his job, and he was doing his job as he was supposed to. And the prosecution will bring in other experts from the industry that will say an actor should still take a look at the gun. But would he have known the difference between a blank, between the inert rounds, the dummy rounds, and a live round, even if he had looked at it? I don't know. And that is a question. But also, are you ever supposed to point it directly at somebody? It's my understanding from early discussion of this case that when you are pointing directly down a camera, that people are watching that off monitor. They're not next to the camera. And if you're pointing a gun in the direction of another actor, that those are normally off center. So it's not actually pointing at someone's center mass. It's pointing off. That's my understanding, but we'll see. I do think it's a harder case as to Baldwin. And I think there will be plenty on the internet who will take glee in the fact that he's being charged. I mean, there's no glee in any of this. I think there's curiosity about how these charges work, but I don't think it's cause to celebrate. I think it's sad. Look, whatever you think about Alec Baldwin or Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, their lives will never be the same. And Helena Hutchins died absolutely needlessly. So none of it, all of it's sad. All of it's sad. Coffee drinking in Marquette. I read that as Margaritaville, Fear and Loathing, and I'm just going with it. My brain transposed. Can we replace the new intro censor beep with Vincent Van Gogh? Maybe we can. I don't know. I like my censor beep. I'll take it under advisement. So, just wanted to thank you for the invaluable service you do. Thank you. I'm here to explain. Hey, Emily, why was Dave Hall allowed a plea deal? Probably because he had information very helpful to the government, wasn't going to give it to them without taking a plea deal to get himself out of involuntary manslaughter charges. And if they found him to be the least culpable, he's the weak link in the chain. Hannah Gutierrez-Reed loaded the bullets. Dave Hall was the safety officer. I thought one of the people that could absolutely be charged. He could have been charged with this. He wanted to take a deal. He took a deal. Look, prosecutors need somebody on the inside. And it's much easier to try a case when you have the person on the inside who's going to have had those conversations with Baldwin saying, he should have done this, he should have done that. This deal is going to include him testifying against Baldwin. Whatever came of Linda's clam issues, well, her mother got really involved. Hello, my spiffy legal mumbo jumbo talkie friend, Matt Bond. It's always a pleasure to see you. Z Seltzer, question. What can we make EDB do to celebrate when she gets to 700K? We'll discuss amongst the members in the chat. We'll discuss amongst the chat and we'll decide something. Emily just finished my first trial. I'm at 3L. Congratulations. That's always an interesting feeling. Congratulations. Let's take bets on which country Baldwin flees to. I mean, they're going to have an eye on him, but it seems like everybody chooses the Bahamas, though the Virgin Islands are quite nice. Check out the CNBC article. I will go look. Can they be charged one time for each role they have in the film? No. These are going to be alternate theories, and now we know these are alternate theories, but one person doing one thing could be charged with multiple crimes, but you can only be convicted and sentenced once. Remember the Josh Duggar case? I know that feels like 100 years ago, but he was charged and convicted of 2 different counts, and they were included. So he was only sentenced on 1 count because they were different types of the same thing. These are different theories of the same thing. Thank you, Law and Lumber. I will go check. I can't understand why he pointed it at someone offset. Well, they were on set in close proximity. His interviews will come up. And the DA, because now he's put himself into a box on what he can say because he's made so many public statements. So anything he says at a trial in his own defense, because he will testify in his own defense, I'm sure, if this goes to trial, it'll be like, but you said this and you said this and you said this. His interrogation digs a deeper hole for him. I think so. And they will take that into consideration when deciding to charge him. The previous complaints and quitting due to safety were a huge part of the decision. DA interview on CNN explained being charged. Okay, we will pull up CNN and go through it. Did these sort of charges happen when Brandon Lee was killed on the set of The Crow? No. There was civil things, but not criminal. But also somebody didn't load Somebody didn't load a live round. There was wadding, is my understanding. And again, to the best of my memory, I've not reviewed it fresh recently, but it wasn't a live gun. It was other negligence. It wasn't a live round. I think a live round is one of the things that really makes this particularly different. I'm dying to hear your thoughts on the Anna Walsh case. I think it's pronounced Walsh, and hopefully hear you roast Brian Walsh. I generally don't roast people. Will I be covering it? We will see. We've got a lot to cover. And then the Murdaugh trial is starting next week, and that's going to be gavel to gavel coverage of Murdaugh. So maybe after the Murdaugh case, I will check back and make that decision. Wait, they're still doing the film. That's what we had heard. I thought it had been abandoned. Nope. Part of the wrongful death settlement was resuming filming. Powder River, all gun training teaches us that we must recheck the gun thoroughly to ensure there is no bullet in the chamber, even if someone tells us the gun is cold. It's ultimately our responsibility, period. Thank you for that input. This is going to be the argument, for Baldwin at least. Question, do you think charging Baldwin will ultimately result in arbitration agreements being required for every Hollywood production from this point forward? There are arbitration agreements. And we've already seen Baldwin exercise some of those arbitration clauses in some of the other suits. But criminal law doesn't give a fuck about your arbitration because you can't arbitrate criminal charges. So it doesn't matter what they do on the civil side. If a DA finds that a crime has happened, they're still going to charge it if they can prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. So arbitration, the civil side of it, does not play into this at all. I had people come in misdemeanor court typically on like a hit and run and be like, well, insurance has already dealt with it. It's like, a hit and run is still a crime. I don't care that insurance has already sorted out the hit and run. A hit and run is still a crime. It's a misdemeanor crime. It puts points on your license, whatever, but it's still a crime. So I don't care that it's already been dealt with. The criminal system operates separately from the civil system. Sometimes if the civil's already been resolved and the victims don't want to go forward and it's not a crime of violence, then it might go into a prosecutor's charging decision. But when there is a death involved, it doesn't matter what the civil has done. They're going to deal with it. So prop is a sign for property of. Thank you, LJ. Scott, Prop and Roll was a prop master on Walker, Texas Ranger, and did a video on the gun prop differences. I will go take a look at that. I know there's people with tons of information on YouTube. That's why I love YouTube so much. Would it be more reckless to handle without the armor on location? The armorer was not in the location where this was being filmed and did not have access to monitors because they had all walked off. I recall this went down during everyone's lunch break. No, this went down after lunch, but the armorer, because of COVID restrictions, there was a limited amount of people in that closed church, that small place. It was a small set on the larger ranch where they were filming, and it was after lunch. The video village was down because they had walked off set. And so the armorer had no way to see what was going on inside. And Dave Halls was the one manipulating or handing the gun to Baldwin. Who knows what happened between the time Gutierrez Reed gave Dave Halls the gun, or did Dave Halls take the gun off the prop cart? We don't know. And we will see. All right, let's go to Chanley Painter's tweet real quick, and then we'll go to CNN. Let's go to the tweeter. Let's not get distracted, Emily. Let's not get distracted on the Twitter. Let's go and see what Chanley posted. Alec Baldwin fighting back. Okay, so this is the same statement that we got through Deadline. All right, same statement we got through Deadline. Let's see. All right, I'm going to go and take a look and see what on CNN. Let me see if it's on their YouTube. Do they have a YouTube channel? Let me go see. And then we will do that. CNN, Santa Fe. Let's see. District Attorney explains. Oh, great. It's on their YouTube channel. Okay, let's do that. Oh, sorry, my lips had gotten coffee. All right. Let's go to CNN for fair use news commentary, CNN. I will try not to interrupt too much. I'm going to interrupt some because it's commentary. We're going to go to CNN and take a look at what the district attorney had to say. All right. And then we'll talk about pretrial publicity and what you're allowed to say and what you're not allowed to say and why they chose to go to CNN and why they chose to do a press release and then make statements to the press. I don't know. All right, we've got closed captioning on. Let's move this closed captioning up and let's go through.
Mexico have just announced that
Can y'all hear? I hope you can all hear. Okay, let me make sure this is as gained up as it can be.
actor Alec Baldwin and the armorer on the film, Rust, will both be charged with involuntary manslaughter for their roles in the fatal movie set shooting back in October of 2021. The film's cinematographer, Helena Hutchins, was killed. The film's director was injured. Josh Campbell's back with us from Santa Fe. He's with Santa Fe's district attorney, and this is her first TV interview since the charging decision. Josh?
She looks thrilled to be giving a TV interview. Thrilled. These books, by the way, are very, lots of the offices I worked with within the LA County District Attorney's Office had books that looked exactly like this. These will, of course, be New Mexico's criminal statutes, but they are bound like this. Sometimes you get the red ones. I loved the more camel-colored ones with the red. They felt so dignified as law books, but we used them for nothing because everything was on the computer.
Josh?
Yeah, thanks. I'm here with the district attorney.
Oh my goodness. I'm waiting for body language people to start doing this immediately. Hold on. Look at her face real quick. It was are we on camera yet? There was a whole big sigh there. All right. Sorry. I just had to look.
Back with us from Santa Fe. He's with Santa Fe's district attorney, and this is her first TV interview since the charging decision. Josh?
Yeah, thanks. I'm here with the district attorney. Madam District Attorney, thank you for speaking with us. I just want to start. How did you come to this prosecutive decision?
Well, along with my special prosecutor, we got the report from the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office. We initiated an extensive review of that, and I will say that it was a well investigated case. But we had some follow up that we had to speak with some experts, and once we read through everything and researched the case law and the law here in New Mexico, we realized that we believe that there was probable cause to charge Alec Baldwin and Hannah Gutierrez-Reed with involuntary manslaughter.
And what were some of the...
I want to know if you believe you can prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, because that really should be where we're at. Yes, there's probably probable cause to arrest them, but can we talk about? Maybe not. Maybe not, because maybe we're getting to the point where saying in public, we believe we can prove this beyond a reasonable doubt might be an issue. LaRon asked, didn't they get more money for a special prosecutor? Yes, I covered that a few months back. They had applied for more money to charge this case and to hire a special prosecutor. So yes, they had. All right, let's keep going.
The key pieces of evidence that you used that factored into that decision?
Well, that there was such a lack of safety and safety standards on that set.
That's fair.
That there were live rounds on set. They were mixed in with regular dummy rounds. Nobody was checking those, or at least they weren't checking them consistently.
Yeah.
And then they somehow got loaded into a gun, handed off to Alec Baldwin. He didn't check it. He didn't do any of the things that he was supposed to do to make sure that he was safe or that anyone around him was safe. And then he pointed the gun at Helena Hutchins and he pulled the trigger.
You talk about the safety on the set.
So this is where we get that involuntary manslaughter, right? Like, hey, he didn't do the things he was supposed to do. So based on whatever experts they talked to, and they were going to talk to industry experts, he didn't do what he was supposed to do. And then he pointed a gun at someone and pulled the trigger. That's how we're getting to this. That's how we're getting to these charges.
That was, as part of your investigation, was there one thing that was done or one thing that was said that sealed it for you that this should be prosecuted?
Someone
No,
died.
actually, I think it was the totality of the circumstances, that this was a really fast and loose set, and that nobody was doing their job. There were 3 people that if they had done their job that day, this tragedy wouldn't have happened.
Completely
That's
agree.
David Halls, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, and Alec Baldwin.
Can we talk about PDQ arm and prop though? How did the bullets get on set? Like, let's just back it up. I realize we might not get to criminally charging, but how did the bullets get on set in the first place? Because yes, there were lots of things that failed, but how did the bullets get on set in the first place?
If they had just done their basic duties, we wouldn't be standing here.
I think I said that
Can
the
you help
last
our
time I
viewers
covered
understand?
this.
So the state officials did a report. It was signed by the chief medical investigator saying that there was no compelling evidence that this was intentional, right?
Right.
So help our viewers understand, if it's an accident, which most people seem to think it is, why is that a crime?
Okay, I'm going to let her answer. Emily, don't answer. Involuntary, that's what involuntary manslaughter is for.
Because just because it's an accident doesn't mean that it's not criminal. Our involuntary manslaughter statute covers unintentional killings, unintentional homicides. The rest of our homicide statutes cover intentional, but unintentional means they didn't mean to do it. They didn't have the intent to kill.
They were reckless.
But it happened anyway, and it happened because of more than mere negligence, because of they didn't exercise due caution or circumspection, and that's what happened here.
And what's your response to, there might be people in Baldwin's camp who say that you were overcharging this?
Well, we disagree, and we're going to be taking that in front of a judge and allowing the judge to decide on probable cause. But we think that there is enough there, more than enough there, to move forward on these charges and possibly to get through the preliminary hearing stage and on to trial.
It makes me concerned that what the district attorney said was, and possibly get through the preliminary hearing. We're going to talk about that real quick. We've talked about the preliminary hearing a lot in the Idaho case. It got put over till June 2023. But the preliminary hearing is hey, there's more than enough, more than a little bit, more than a scoosh, more than a LaCroix, more than a whiff of evidence that this person did the thing we're charging them with, and we can bind them over to trial. I have very rarely gone into a preliminary hearing and been like, not sure how this one's going to go. Because generally when I have a case, take a case as a prosecutor, file a case, I'm like, this can go the distance. Now, there are times in the middle of a preliminary hearing where witnesses have said things that I had no idea they were going to say. And I'm like, oh, well, yep, this is why we do preliminary hearings. Yeet. This one needs to go. This is what is in these reports, and what you were saying are not the same, and there is no recovering from that. So we are done. That's why you do preliminary hearings or a grand jury. It's really concerning to me that the district attorney said probably this might just be I'm not on TV a lot. We all misspeak, but probably makes me nervous. Well, we think we can kind of get through preliminary hearing. You should think that you can get to a jury beyond a reasonable doubt and work backwards from there. That just makes me a little nervous. And it might just be because, this district attorney is probably not having to deal with media a lot, but that use of words makes me nervous.
Yes.
Well, we disagree, and we're going to be taking that in front of a judge and allowing the judge to decide on probable cause. But we think that there is enough there, more than enough there, to move forward on these charges and possibly to get through the preliminary hearing stage.
That's the possibly, and possibly get through the preliminary hearing stage. So I hope they feel strong. I hope they feel stronger about this. Because if you don't think you can get past a preliminary hearing, don't charge it. Don't charge it because of public pressure. Mount up and say, hey, yes, there's public pressure. Yes, someone died, but there's not enough. It makes me nervous. This makes me nervous. I don't like it.
Stage and on to trial.
And can you just break down the specific charges? So I was reading through your announcement. You say that both Hannah Gutierrez-Reed and Alec Baldwin have been charged with 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter. Can you unpack that? What does that mean? Well,
and those are 2 counts in the alternative. So when this goes in front of a jury, the jury could find they're guilty on both, but since they're in the alternative, they will only be sentenced as to 1 count.
So the different theories.
The first part of the involuntary that will be.
This is the analysis that we all went through earlier. And then we knew this was here. This is the analysis we went through earlier, where I pulled up the statute and went, oh, the statute has 2 parts, part 1 and part 2, this or this. And they're charging this or this. And now we have the definitive answer from the actual DA, not just a DA that's on YouTube saying it's probably this or this.
Charging is that they acted without due caution and circumspection, meaning they weren't just negligent in their duties, but that they were on notice, that they had duties, and that they should have done or not done something that didn't happen on that set, meaning they should have checked the bullets, they should have checked the gun. They shouldn't have even been using a live gun that day. They should have been using a rubber or a plastic gun. All of these things go together and show that there was just this complacency, lack of care on that set, and it's more than negligence, and I would say it rises to recklessness. The other is,
and recklessness is where you need to be to get into that criminal negligence realm. However, when we look at the case law, and I'm going to read the case law before I cover this in the podcast. When we look at the case law, it's interesting to say when it comes to a weapon, you need ordinary negligence. That's an interesting thing, and I'm going to look at that. But for Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, we're going to need to see the, criminal negligence, that reckless disregard. But also, how do you look at some bullets and go, meh, it's fine, when some of them are live? I think we get there. This is a very fair point. Missy W, aren't they assuming Alec Baldwin would know the difference between a live and dummy round? It seems that they are assuming that, and I don't think they can make that assumption. I think that a jury would be like, well, is that his job? But is that his actual job though? How would he know? So I think that's a very, very fair point that the defense will argue, Missy. Jen, a plastic gun, has she ever seen a movie though? I agree with you, but they weren't filming. They were blocking things out. So maybe that's what the experts told this DA when they were investigating. Hey, they're blocking things out. There shouldn't have even been a live gun on set when they were blocking things out. There was no need for it during this time. So, and we've seen that horrific report from the Occupational Health Safety Board in New Mexico. It was scathing.
Goes hand in hand with a misdemeanor, a petty misdemeanor here in New Mexico called negligent use of a deadly weapon.
Oh, there it is.
And that is that someone...
Hey, y'all, we have an answer. Hold on. I need to write it down. I'm going to need to know this. So then we're going to go back. This will be so much better in quick bits. Don't worry. This will be better in quick bits. What's the misdemeanor? Tell us what the misdemeanor is. And then the misdemeanor, if you're committing a misdemeanor, you don't need that criminal negligence. You just need the committing an unlawful act that's not a felony. So tell me again what it is.
All of these things go together and show that there was just this complacency, lack of care on that set, and it's more than negligence, and I would say it rises to recklessness.
I went back too
the
far.
Other is
there we go.
Goes hand in hand with a misdemeanor, a petty misdemeanor here in New Mexico called negligent use of a deadly weapon, and that is that someone handled or used or touched a gun in a negligent manner. And once we show that, then that can lead to the second.
So that's where we get the alternative charges. When I was talking about what would be doing the unlawful act, what is the unlawful act? Here's the unlawful act. Petty misdemeanor, negligent use of a deadly weapon. So I'm sure that New Mexico also has a felony version of this statute. It might be a wobbler where you can charge it as a misdemeanor or a felony, because generally there are also felony negligent use of a deadly weapon. However, she's going to explain to us what it means. I will pull up the statute later when we do this for quick bits and take a look at it.
Alternative theory of involuntary manslaughter.
Does it matter for an actor? Obviously, there's been this discussion about safety on sets. The last time I interviewed you, you even mentioned you were surprised to learn that these sets operate like this in some circumstances.
I'm
but
surprised.
If you have an actor with what he or she thinks is a prop gun, not a real gun, is that actual negligence if it turns out that gun can actually shoot?
It's more than that. Every person that handles a gun has a duty to make sure that if they are going to handle that gun, point it at someone and pull the trigger, that it is not going to fire a projectile and kill someone. And this is really about justice for Halyna Hutchins. We've talked to many actors, A-list and otherwise, that have said that they always check their guns, or they have someone check it in front of them. So it's not...
And that's... When they talked to experts, this is really going to be the fight, not to Halyna Hutchins, not to Hannah Gutierrez-Reed. It's not going to be the fight for her. She should have known the difference. She's the armorer. She shouldn't have put live bullets in the gun. She should have been able to tell the difference. All of that's not the fight. But as to Alec Baldwin, the bigger name in this and the one that's driving headlines, is his statement, hey, they told me not to check the gun, is that in line with actual proper protocol? Or should he have said to Dave Halls, no, show me? Because Dave Halls said something seemed weird and he handed it to Baldwin anyway in Baldwin's lawsuit. And Dave Halls is going to testify to all that, we know, because he has signed a plea deal. So I think That's where the fight is going to be into this. Will he do jail time? Alec Baldwin is presumed innocent. If he is convicted, it is an 18-month jail sentence as the maximum. Could he do probationary time? Yes. That's a very real possibility in this case. So it is way too soon to tell. He shouldn't get jail time just because people think he's a dick. Like that shouldn't happen. And it might, so it just depends. But no, that will be up to a judge if he's convicted or if he takes a plea deal, which it seems he's unlikely to do, given that his attorney said, we will win. So.
An actor doesn't get a free pass just because they're an actor. And that's what's so important, is that we're saying here in New Mexico, everyone's equal under the law. Everyone has to follow their duties and do what's right and take that safety into account so that this doesn't ever happen again.
And is Baldwin being charged as an actor who is holding the gun?
Laura, the maximum for involuntary manslaughter is 18 months. If there's a weapon enhancement on that, it might bump it up. I haven't looked at the weapon enhancement statute yet. It's possible.
Or as a producer on the set who was negligent about the safety standards. Can you help describe that?
He's being charged as both. He was the actor that pulled the trigger, so certainly he's charged as an actor. But also as a producer, he also had a duty to make sure that the set was safe. And we know from our investigation that there had been accidental misfires prior to this, that there were people that were complaining about safety on set. And so he should have been aware that safety was an issue on set. And then as an actor that day, he should have checked that gun, checked those projectiles.
Just a couple more questions, because I know your time is short.
I'll go look.
Do you expect any
about
type of
the
plea
weapon
agreement from
enhancement.
Baldwin or Gutierrez-Reed? Have those discussions started?
That's not something I can comment
No,
at this
it's
time.
not.
It's unethical for a
Hey, look. Look, what a nice juxtaposition from Brian Kohberger's Pennsylvania attorney. Look at this. Look at this. Here we go. That's not something I can comment on. These are the charges. These are the alternative theories. This is who's being charged. Everything else, I can't comment on. Look at this. We appreciate it. She's going to go on to say something about ethics. I heard it. Sussex Sandra, question, will this be a jury trial? Yes. If this goes to trial, it will be a jury trial. Look, let's listen to the words.
Time is short. Do you expect any type of plea agreement from Baldwin or Gutierrez-Reed? Have those discussions started?
That's not something I can comment at this time. It's unethical for a prosecutor to talk about plea negotiations or potential
Correct.
plea deals.
Were they given a heads up that this was coming?
Yes.
They were.
They
And
were.
how did those discussions go?
Not well.
We have been in, I would say, almost constant communication with the opposing parties' counsels.
By the way, it's unusual. This whole circumstance is unusual. It's unusual that a potential defendant has their own attorney. It's unusual that it's a year plus after a murder happens. It's unusual that they are in constant communication with the attorneys for these individuals. All of that is unusual in the state level prosecution. This is very common in federal. So this part of it is operating more like federal, where they have a conversation. It's like, when are you turning yourself in? And they do all the rest of it. But that is more unusual in the state. Normally, if there is a murder and then they're like, who do we think did it? And then they get an arrest warrant. Then they go arrest the person, more like in the Brian Kohberger case. But this is more like a federal case. Also, I don't think anyone can argue or believe that Alec Baldwin, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, or Dave Halls are a threat to the public in general or society in general. They're not putting other people at risk by still being at their houses, different from other types of cases. So, but DA statement for the win. I can't comment on that. Thank you.
For about the last 6 weeks, they didn't know exactly what was coming, but they were aware that we were contemplating charges, and they were aware of what the contemplated charges were.
And just two more questions. So what happens next? So once these charges are filed, which I assume is tomorrow, right? Is that the plan?
It'll be before the end of this month.
Before the end of this month. So then what happens? Are these defendants then required to come?
So the DA has confirmed again that charges are happening before the end of the month. Okay.
Back to New Mexico, or will they be
We need more
placed
locals.
under arrest? How does that work?
No, we will not be asking for an arrest. In typical,
That is a big answer of a question that's outstanding. They will not be asking for an arrest. So They will charge these defendants. They expect these defendants to willfully turn themselves over. And I mean, I'm sure they will, or they will issue a warrant for them to show up and be arraigned. They will coordinate that for them being arraigned. And then they will likely remain out of custody until this goes to preliminary hearing and then until it goes to trial. Donna C. said, FYI, my husband blames you for my salted caramel Twix addiction. I told you they were dangerous. I gave fair warnings, Donna, and aren't they so good? They're so good. Suzanne, yes, I will. We're going to get to that. That's our next topic, but we've got breaking news today. Not asking for an arrest. I know. Lots of breaking news here.
Cases in this county, the way that we handle it is we'll send out what's called a summons. From that, the court will set what's called a first appearance, or it's basically an arraignment. And at that point, they will either have to come here or they might do a video arraignment. We have been doing those since COVID. And they will get—
You're going to let them do a video arraignment? Make them at least— all right. I'm not going to tell people how to do their job. I mean, what does it really matter? Alec Baldwin's going to hop on his private jet and show up. They all have private attorneys. People know where they are.
Conditions of release and enter not guilty, please.
And finally, last time you and I spoke, which was right after this tragic incident occurred, you told me that you know that there is pressure out there. People either wanting to charge, people not wanting you to charge. One thing you said was, you know there's pressure, you do not feel that pressure, and you will follow the facts, and the prosecution decision will be made on the facts.
Right.
That was at the beginning of the case. Do you still feel the same now, looking backwards? This obviously got international attention. Can you just talk about that? What was it like trying to conduct this investigation, and was it done in a consistent manner throughout?
Oh, absolutely. Of course, I knew there was pressure. Of course, I knew that people had feelings one way or another, but that happens in every single case. And what's important to me as a prosecutor is treating everyone equally under the law and getting justice for the victims. And so that pressure did not affect me in any way whatsoever. This was
DAs are used to being unpopular. DAs are used to people not liking their decisions one way or the other, charging or not charging. DAs are used to it. So I'm not surprised to see the elected district attorney, the bossy boss district attorney saying, yeah, but that happens. And though in their jurisdiction, it might not be cases that have international attention, there are local cases of intense interest in a particular locality where people feel one way or the other. And that is exactly what it is. Hey, our job is to treat everyone equally under the law, to be ethical, and to get justice for the victims. Yes. Agreed. And I think that's why they took so long in bringing this case. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that statement.
A decision based on the facts and the evidence.
I'm just thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Okay, we'll throw it back to you. Obviously, a major—
I feel like this district attorney just said, but maybe didn't say, but just said, oh, facts, not fuckery. What are the facts? And do the facts lead to charges? So, yep. Chloe's mom said she said no pressure, but she didn't charge then, and now she caved under pressure. I don't think she caved. I think this is the end of the investigation. So, Lucinda, she won't be the actual prosecutor, though, will she? She will be involved in this jurisdiction. She will be involved. But they brought in a special prosecutor to handle it, so she won't be the one in court day to day handling this. So yes. Eric H said, I bet she's subscribed to your channel. I bet she doesn't watch YouTube. I bet most district attorneys shut themselves off from social media entirely. I did my entirety of my career. I paid attention sometimes to local news articles when I had cases of intense interest, just to make sure people weren't threatening witnesses or victims or doxing witnesses or victims. But I tried to stay out of it all the time. And I did not interact on social media much. I shared photos of my kids with my friend group on Facebook, and that was about it. I scrolled Instagram and occasionally posted pictures of things happening, but that's all. What is a special prosecutor? A special prosecutor is someone who was brought in, who's not a line deputy, not a line district attorney in this jurisdiction, who was brought into this jurisdiction just to deal with this case. So they brought in someone to deal with this case. Which could be someone who's retired, could be someone who's left the office, could be someone from another jurisdiction. So That is what's happening. All right. If there's a preliminary hearing in this, I imagine it'll be televised. Everybody's going to ask for it. And to avoid their court getting swamped, they're going to have to deal with it.
But that happens in every single case.
Oh,
and
we went back too far.
What's important to me as a prosecutor is treating everyone equally under the law and getting justice for the victims. And so that pressure did not affect me in any way whatsoever. This was a decision based on the facts and the evidence.
I'm just trying to thank you for your time.
Fact.
I really appreciate it. Okay, we'll throw it back to you. Obviously, a major decision here that we've been waiting for in this case. Now, actor Alec Baldwin, as well as the armorer on set, charged with involuntary manslaughter.
And the AD pled. Why are we all leaving that headline out? And the AD pled. Emily, if no arrest and arraignment next, then where in between will they be charged? I'm confused. Okay. Thank you for asking the question of that. So what the DA said in this statement on CNN, and I will link this interview because I know I stopped and started it a lot. I'm going to just grab the link and share it with the mods so they can share it. And then I'll put it in the chat too to make sure it gets over to Facebook. And I'll put it in the description down below for the replay crew. So let me just pop that in, remind everyone to go ahead and do the YouTube things. But if no arrests, they're going to cite them. So they will issue a summons and say, you've been charged. This happens a lot in misdemeanor cases. You've been charged. You need to come to court on this day and be arraigned. They said they'll be able to do it in video. So they will be charged first. They will get a summons to appear. They will be arraigned and go from there. She said it'll be by the end of the month. So those charges will be formalized by the end of the month. So, all right. I think we've covered everything. I'm going to look for a few more questions on this, and then we will move on. Mara asked, if convicted, will he be a felon? If he is convicted of this, it is a felony. So yes, it is a felony. And I imagine if he is convicted of this, there will be restrictions on his ability to handle guns going forward. That's not uncommon. Barb J, is Dave Halls being truthful though to save himself from going to jail? That's what a jury's for. They have, generally when you're working with someone who's taking a deal, you have to have external evidence to back it up. I imagine that Dave Halls has text messages and emails and things that back up what he's saying, or that other witnesses also corroborate what he's saying. So it can't just be out of nowhere. There's more to the interview. You stopped too soon. All right. There is more to the interview, but if it's just somebody talking about it, I'm going to be talking about it.
Josh, while you have the DI, I know she's short on time. She said something in there that I wanted to see if you could
The
ask
chat's
her really
bay.
quick. She said that Alec Baldwin pulled the trigger. Baldwin told ABC he was adamant he did not pull the trigger. She is
Thanks, chat. This is a good question.
confident Alec Baldwin pulled the trigger.
Yeah, so my colleague Kate is asking, so
Good question.
Baldwin has said that he didn't pull the trigger. Obviously, we know the FBI report says that that gun could not have gone off cocked without pulling the trigger. Are you confident that he actually pulled the trigger?
Yes, absolutely. The FBI lab is one of the best in the world, and we absolutely believe that the trigger had to have been pulled in order for that gun to go off. The trigger was pulled.
So that your assessment is based on that FBI.
The trigger was pulled. How is a summons served? It'll be served on their attorneys, normally by mail, but it'll be served on their attorneys. So that practical matter won't be too much of a matter. Okay. Chat is bae. Thanks, chat. The district attorney has said Baldwin pulled the trigger.
Analysis at Quantico looking at the gun itself and how it operated.
That's right. And that's one of the reasons that this investigation did take a long time. We were waiting on that, trying to make sure we had all of the evidence and were able to gather absolutely everything. And we were sure of these charges before we filed them.
Great. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, back to you.
Good question.
Josh, does she know how that live round got on that set?
Yeah.
But wait, there's more. I'm kind of living for the anchor right now. Is like, ma'am, we have a few more questions. I'm living. All right. I thought they were just throwing it back to the anchor to give kind of like, and now we've just seen the district attorney. No, she's like, ma'am, while you're here, I've got more questions. Good. Get it. This is why I'm not a journalist. Love this.
And one question which we've had is, do you know how the live round actually got on?
Yeah, the question we all want to know.
We don't. And we might not ever know the answer to that question. And I do believe that's a bit of a red herring.
How do bullets get on set?
The point is, live rounds were there and they weren't checked. They should have been caught.
That's
3
fair.
people should have been checking those projectiles and should have caught them.
But that wasn't a major decision in your determination to actually charge here.
If there's no live bullets, there's no case.
Correct.
Okay. And do you think that, I mean, you know, obviously you look at the facts of this case, but, you know, you mentioned before how surprised you were to see the lack of safety on this set. Are you also trying to maybe send a message to other, you know, people out there making movies that, look, there will be consequences? Is that part of your decision?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Ma'am, is your message fuck around and find out? Absolutely. Let's go back. That's the question. Is your message to film sets fuck around and find out?
In New Mexico, we want you to come here. We want you to film movies, but we want you to do it safely. And we certainly want to get justice for
please
anyone
don't kill people.
that is a victim. Like in this case, we want to get justice for Helena Hutchins.
Yeah, murder's not okay.
And that is key. Obviously, we've been hearing, Kate, that there was a victim in this case, which we have to remember.
We don't have murder charges without a victim, but thank you.
Cinematographer Helena Hutchins, you know, although this appears to be an accident, she lost her life in this incident, Kate.
Absolutely. Josh, thank you very much for the great interview. And please thank the district attorney for us, because I know she doesn't have any IFB. So thank you both very, very much.
She can't hear.
Joining me now, because there's a lot to go through now hearing from the district attorney herself. Back with me, Elliot Williams, Chloe Milas, and Dutch Merrick. Elliot, what's your reaction to what you just heard?
That's a lot of writing back there.
Okay,
That's
so I
too
heard
much.
3 big things there, Kate. Number one,
That's a lot.
The notion that accidents can be criminal.
All right. I'm a talking head. I don't need the other talking heads. I'll go watch what the other talking heads have to say later. I'm distracted by that amount of writing. Okay. So, question, who was the man behind her? The director on the set, Joel Souza, was behind Helena enough that the bullet went through her, through and through, because they were so close together when this happened. So they were feet apart. So the bullet had enough velocity to go through Helena Hutchins and into Joel Souza, so the director, but no charges will be brought for that. What we learned from this interview, and again, quick bits this week is going to be fucking fire when I get to distill all of this. What we learned, alternate theories. The district attorney believes that Alec Baldwin pulled the trigger. Now, I know Alec Baldwin said he didn't pull the trigger. Cicely Harris points it out really well in the chat. My understanding is Alec Baldwin pulled the hammer back, partially released it, which fired the gun, not actually pulling the trigger. That's what Alec Baldwin has been saying. The district attorney says that their understanding, belief, and what the FBI report said is that Alec Baldwin pulled that trigger. We will see what happens. So, yeah. So that we have learned that the AD Dave Halls is taking a plea deal. We understand that there's alternative theories. We have heard nothing about PDQ Arm and Prop, the person who presumably delivered the bullets. Nothing about it. So, Chelsea said, I don't believe the FBI report said it's consistent with that belief. From what we've seen reported on the FBI report, I don't know either. So they are alleging the trigger was pulled. This is going to be argued over at trial. And the district attorney said they believe that the trigger was pulled. Alec Baldwin said I didn't pull the trigger. Question, is it murder or manslaughter? Shamrock, the charges that will be brought will be involuntary manslaughter. So it is a killing of a person, but without intent to kill, without the mens rea of a homicide or of a murder charge. We got to say mens rea today at least once. Baldwin spent over 20 minutes in his police interrogation explaining the difference between live, fake, and blank cartridges. Justin Wright, you make an excellent point. And that might be used against Baldwin to say he knew the difference. You make a really excellent point, because what I think I said is, can we expect Baldwin to know this? And you're absolutely right. It's been a while since I've watched it. But yes, I'm going to watch it again. He did talk about the difference in rounds. And that interview with police will be used if the defense is trying to argue, because they can't. If he said, this is the extensive difference, I've worked with all the guns. I know all of the guns. I know everything about guns. I've worked extensively with guns. It's this and this and this. And I've been on hundreds of film sets with guns. That will be used. That would absolutely absolutely be used. So thank you. That is an excellent point, Justin. I appreciate that. I don't buy this. Hannah told me I can't check the gun. He's a huge ego who does what he wants. I think he doesn't want to check the gun, but we're going to have to see. Hey girls, sending you love for always making me laugh and keeping me informed of what's going on in a professional way with Cursey words. Fuck yeah, we love it. Thank you. Any above the line AKA producers admitting that they were not aware of the safety issues on that set are admitting to their own negligence. The buck stops with them at the end of the day, and they are responsible for our safety. And we see that in the civil cases. And I think the reason other producers weren't charged is because they weren't holding the gun. So questions: can the civil lawsuit settlement be used against Alec? Not in the criminal case. No. Allison, production assistant here. Love Alec, but he needs to serve time in jail for real justice to be served, unfortunately. And that's fair. He could be convicted and not serve. There's not a mandatory minimum sentence that I've seen on this, but yes, he could serve. If he is convicted, he could serve jail time. Yes. We'll see. Aurelia said the BBC News article reported that labor laws in the US don't regulate gun safety on sets, but relies on the industry to set the rules. Advice given doesn't require the actor to check the gun. I want to know. This is going to be a key component of the trial, because the key component of the trial is what is negligence in this very specific fact scenario. What counts as negligence? So I'm going to answer a few more questions and then we're going to move on. Can he settle and not serve jail time at all? Always possible. Yes, he could. His attorney made a strong statement that this was a miscarriage of justice. So do I see him settling? Maybe not, but I also didn't expect Jen Shaw to settle. I was stunned, as I told ABC. Question: I thought I heard all the actors and staff went through safety training on handling guns on set. Michelle B., they did, and Alec Baldwin said it in his lawsuit as well. I saw the question, can Alec, thank you, Melanie, from over on Facebook, can Alec sue the production company if he loses the trial? Not in the criminal trial, but in all of the civil cases, there is indemnification going back and forth in the civil stuff, where Alec Baldwin is saying, I'm not responsible, you're responsible, and if I'm found civilly responsible, y'all need to pay. But indemnification isn't going to happen in the criminal side. So yes, in the civil side, that's already happening. No, in the criminal side. That's a great question. Thank you. Desiree said, Emily's helping me get in shape. I'm watching the stream and at the gym, and it makes workouts so much more fun. I'm glad. Hopefully it makes the time pass. For 3 days, I have missed my workout and I have been pissed. I have a new thing that I'm really enjoying, and I haven't gotten to do my thing. So after stream today, I will hopefully be doing a thing. How soon until he does 50 more media interviews? Scott Cardinal, good to see you.
The limit does not exist. The limit does not exist.
Will Alec Baldwin do more interviews than Brian Koberger's Pennsylvania attorney is really the question. That's really the question. And we'll get to that in a minute. Let's see. Baldwin already impeached himself as a truthful witness. He did in all the statements he's given. This is why, look, this is not legal advice. But if there's a thing that you could be criminally charged for, the more you talk, the worse it gets. I've never seen it get better. I've never seen people talking make it better, ever. You have the right to a lawyer because it is believed that in our system that a lawyer is needed to preserve your rights. That is why you have the right to a lawyer. That only works if you exercise that right. It does not work if you don't exercise that right. If you exercise the right to run your mouth, the district attorney will be like, hey, thank you. I know. I've been that district attorney. Ooh, let me subpoena everything you've said on social media. Great look. Ooh, let me get the interview. Great look. So, Becky, is this a bad time to ask if they're still finishing the movie? No, it's not a bad time, because it's an integral part of this, because part of the settlement in the wrongful death case was that the husband of Helena Hutchins becomes a producer on the movie and the movie goes ahead. Does this change it? Like, if I'm the state of Idaho, am I letting you come back onto the same set to film? I mean, who is the state? Not Idaho. Gosh, I'm ready to move on to our next case. If I'm the state of New Mexico, do we let you back on set when there's been so many labor issues with the Occupational Health and Safety Board? I don't know. Celine was like, you need to share the joy of Vincent Van Gogh through the soundboard. We'll do that as we switch. We'll definitely do that as we switch. Baldwin self-snitched. He did. He absolutely did. And a lot of people do. A lot of people do. Look, lawyers are lawyers for a reason. And you can only preserve your rights if you preserve them. Anyway, we need to move on. Didn't the prop supplier meet investigators on the set after the death? Yes. And is not charged. And that's a lingering question that I have. Why not? They might just not have enough evidence. Or no, I don't know. They might feel it's too tangential. But the live rounds got there somehow. And without the live rounds, you don't get to any of this. I think we've thoroughly gone through this. We need to move on. It's been 2 hours. And I know I'm going to have stuff to do later today, but we need to move on to make sure that we cover well the search warrant that's been unsealed in the Idaho case. So let me go ahead and pull that up, and then I will try to do some more Q&A afterwards. Normally I do Q&A at the end, but this was such a big topic and breaking news. I think there was a lot that we needed to cover, and you guys asked great questions. So I appreciate it. Let me pull up that search warrant, and we're just going to go to the text of the search warrant. There's a lot of reporting on it, but I don't think we need the reporting on it. I'm going to just cover the search warrant. So let me grab the unsealed search warrant in the Idaho case. We've done one round of Vincent Van Gogh. We'll do
the other round of Vincent Van Gogh. I'm sorry, it's cursed. It's cursed. It's cursed.
It's cursed. Sue said, Emily, I watched you at 4 a.m. You were amazing. Thank you. I'm guessing that's on the Hulu special that just went live. I was pleased to be asked to do it. I was happy to be a part of it, and I appreciate it. So thank you. I appreciate it. So let us go to the Koberger search warrant affidavit. That was going to be our only topic today. I'm stopping. I'm not going to plan shows anymore. I'm just not. We're going to go with what happens, and then we're going to round it up in quick bits at the end of the week. And that's just what we're doing. That's just what we're doing. All right. There is a 50-page search warrant affidavit. I am not going to go line by line because some of this might be repeats. We are going to go through this as thoroughly as we can. Filed January 17th, 2023. So the search warrant motion to unseal, and there's a lot of documents in this. The motion to unseal the warrant was filed January 17th. It got unsealed January 18th. I didn't cover it yesterday. I covered it today. Just because some days we have busy days. All right. Motion comes now the state of Washington. Okay. So this is the Superior Court in the state of Washington, because the search warrant was executed in Washington because of the borders between Washington and Idaho. Comes now the state of Washington. By and through Dennis Tracy, Whitman County prosecuting attorney, and moves the court for an order to unseal the return service of search warrant number basis. These warrants were issued and served in Washington state because a suspect in the crimes resided and worked here during the time of the murders. These warrants and associated applications were sealed due to the sensitive nature of the investigation at that time. Since then, an extensive probable cause affidavit has been unsealed in Latah County, Idaho, which has alleviated the need for sealing the return service herein. So this is why the prosecutors are asking for it. They're like, hey, here you go. This was sealed because this was an ongoing investigation. The probable cause affidavit spilled all of the tea. So here we go. Order. It is ordered that the return service search warrant in this matter hereby unsealed, and the judge signed it. This is the Washington judge. Search warrant return means it's not going to be that easy, Emily. You've got to explain more. So when a search warrant is issued, there has to be probable cause to search. The Fourth Amendment presents unreasonable searches and seizures. You can't just be like, hey, give me your phone, I'm going to go through it. Or the police can't. Parents can. Parents, don't let your child tell you they have a Fourth Amendment right against unreasonable searches and seizures, or tell them that's very clever. I am not the government. I am your parent, and I am looking. Not parenting advice, just practical advice. So with this, you get a search warrant. You have to have probable cause to search. You have to be searching for specific things. You can't just be like, we want to see what we can find. After the search warrant is completed in whatever person that is searched, location that is searched, or what have you, then there is a search warrant returned back to the court saying, and this is what we took. This is the search warrant you granted us. This is how we executed the search warrant, and this is what we took. And then you send it back to the court. That was sealed, and now it's unsealed. And that's what we're going through. Motion in order for original search warrant and search warrant application to remain sealed, but a redacted version be provided to public release. So this was filed January 17th. So some things will be redacted out, and that's fair. Basis. The Washington State Constitution recognizes that victims of crime have rights. Good. And states that, quote, effective law enforcement depends on cooperation from victims of crime. Washington Constitution. The Washington State Legislature has recognized that there is a severe and detrimental impact on crime victims, survivors of victims, and witnesses of crime, and yet there is the civic and moral duty of victims, survivors of victims, and witnesses in crimes to fully and voluntarily cooperate with law enforcement and prosecutorial agencies. In a crime proceeding, the law requires that a reasonable effort is made to ensure that victims, survivors of victims, and witnesses of crimes have the right to receive protection from harm and threats of harm arising out of cooperation with law enforcement. Washington courts have long acknowledged that victims' initials can be substituted for their names. So this is part of why it's being sealed. We want to protect the identities of folks. Unfortunately, in this case, the identities of the surviving roommates have long been made public. I try not to get into those there because the internet can be awful to people. The law nerds aren't. Y'all are delightful, but the rest of the internet that shows no human compassion, that part of the internet can be brutal. The basis for this motion is that there are two surviving victim witnesses of a now notorious and much publicized murder/burglary in Moscow, Idaho, whose full names are listed in the search warrant and search warrant application. These warrants were issued and served in Washington state because the suspect in the crimes resided and worked here during the time of the murders. These warrants and associated applications were sealed due to the sensitive nature. Since then, an extensive probable cause affidavit has been unsealed. But the documents filed in Latah County have not disclosed the surviving victims' names, only their initials. These victims should have the full level of protection agreed that can be provided by having their initials substituted for their full names. So they're saying we're going to redact out the full names. That's fair. And that's very, very reasonable. The state is asking the court to consider the unusual factors. One, showing the need for their sealing the records. Well, I disagree. We're not going to go through the law on this. I don't think the court's going to disagree. I don't think we need more than initials. I don't think there's a public interest in needing more than initials. We don't need to know. It's fine. Initials are fine. Nothing more needs to be known. The public can still know the information with just the initials, and that's fine. Fine. I'm not going to go through the rest of the justification for it. I agree. I think the court probably agrees, and I think it's in here. If it's not in here, I will zoom through it or take it off screen. Yes, I realize that the media has already reported on it. And there's nothing I can do about what the media has already reported on. What we can do is control what I put up on screen. That's the best I can do. It's weird. It's like all I can control is my own behavior, right? Strange. We can't monitor the rest of the internet. Search warrant. This is filed January 17th. This is redacted. There's got to be a different date on this. I'm going to go look at the bottom. 12/29. So this search warrant was signed on 12/29 at 9:25 p.m. So whatever information they got so that they were asking for the search warrant and that's not uncommon. I did search warrant duty in the middle of the night often for the day because I got extra time off. I could bank days off by doing search warrant duty and being woken up by the phone at 3 a.m. So I did search warrant duty. So people would call in for search warrants at all times of night, and I would review search warrants before they would go to the judge to be signed, because if you wake the judge up at 3 a.m. and your search warrant is fucked, it's going to be a lot worse than if you wake me up and I'm like, that's not enough probable cause. Can you please do it again, or put more information in, or do more investigation and find more? So I've done search warrant duty on that, so it's not surprising to me. But this is like a month, I think, almost exactly. Do I remember the exact dates? No, the chat probably remembers the exact dates, because right now I have the Rust dates stuck in my head. So give me 1 second. But this is from December 29th. So this is very, very shortly before the arrest. But this is almost a month after the November 13th. So more than a month after the homicides. So let's get into this. But this is right before the arrest, which I believe was December 30th. So this was after Brian Koberger had left Washington and gone to Pennsylvania. Let's go through. This is the application for search warrant. So this is probably going to mirror a lot of the probable cause. Why do they think this dude did something? And why do they think this dude might still have evidence that he did something? And we need to know time wise. Why do we think that there is still evidence there a month later? Those are the things I'm expecting to see. Upon a sworn complaint made before me, there is probable cause to believe that the crimes of murder in the first degree and burglary per Idaho code has been committed in Idaho, and that evidence of those crimes or contraband, the fruits of the crime, those are standard language, or this doesn't mean there's actually contraband, fruits of the crime, or anything else. This is standard languaging. Let's see. Or things otherwise criminally possessed, or weapons or other things by means which crime has been committed or reasonably appears to have been committed is concealed in or on certain premises. In making this determination, the court did not consider the information in the supplemental disclosure regarding DNA test. So they're making very clear here that the familial DNA, meaning the dumpster diving DNA from the father, was not considered for this court to establish probable cause. So this court thought there was enough probable cause by signing this without that familial DNA. So the court did not consider the supplemental disclosure regarding DNA test as evidence supporting the existence of probable cause. The court also does not consider the information in that supplemental disclosure to be exculpatory. We're just not considering it. You're commanded to search within 10 days of this date, this premises, which has, again, already been disclosed. It is a 3-story multi-occupancy apartment building in Pullman, Washington, which is tan and white. This description we should always have. Do law enforcement sometimes get this wrong? Yes. Do they sometimes go to the wrong door? Yes. But for this, it is just the description, which apartment they're going to, where it's located, how the door is located, how the door is designated, which residents are we searching. Seized if located evidence of the above listed crimes, including. So this is what they're looking for. They are searching in Washington. They are searching Brian Koberger's apartment. And what they are searching for, there is going to be a probable cause affidavit after this. What are they looking for? Blood or other bodily fluid or human tissue or skin cells, or items with blood or other bodily fluid or human tissue or skin cells, knives, sheaths, or other sharp tools, including any dagger, dirk. Only in criminal law do you see the word dirk and dagger, but it's still alive and well in criminal law because criminal laws were written a long time ago, in part. Dagger, dirk, or sword, or any written indicia of ownership of same, including sales receipts. Any images, whether digital, on paper, or other format, which show, and then they list out the victims here: Ethan Chapin, Kaylee Goncalves, Xana Kernodle, Madison Mogan, and then the surviving roommates, name redacted, and or the house at King Road. Clothing, including but not limited to dark shirts, dark pants, masks, shoes with a diamond pattern sole. Trace evidence, including DNA from blood or skin cells or other source, footprints, fingerprints, hair, whether human or animal/dog. So this leads me to believe we know that there was a dog in the residence at the time of the murders. We know the dog was in a separate room from where the victims were, either when they were killed or after they were killed. But what this is indicating to me is that they thought perhaps that it's possible that the defendant might have interacted with the dog or put the dog in the other room or whatever. And so there might be dog hair. And if this defendant doesn't own a dog, I mean, again, this is a month later, so the defense is going to be like, one could interact with lots of dogs in the span of a month, but that is the kind of stuff they were looking for. Data complications, whether digital or electronic, showing an interest in planning of murder, violent assaults. This is the internet search history. And yes, there are phone numbers in here. The phone numbers were redacted out of the other warrants. They're not redacted out of this warrant. So I'm going to read this and then go through, but Again, this phone number is in custody, and I imagine this phone number will be disconnected because this phone is in custody, the cell phone. So I'm going to just read it and then scroll past it, but they did not redact that out. Data complications, whether digital or electronic or on paper or other formats, showing an interest in or planning of murder, violent assault, stabbing, and or cutting of people. I'm YouTube. I am reading a search warrant. It is a search warrant. We are reading a search warrant. Thank you, YouTube, for understanding. YouTube's like, nah, fuck off. And data complications showing details of the King Road house or its location or information about any of the victims or surviving roommates. It lists them by name. Data complications showing the location of the defendant or the cell phone listed by the cell phone number last 48458, which we know from the other search warrant affidavit on November 13th, including Wi-Fi logs, data, metadata associated with photos, social media posts, applications on cell phones, computer. So any apps that track location, computer towers, laptops, tablets as example, but not intended to be exhaustive or exclusive list of data complications being sought. Ledgers, paper, list, books, notes, letters, calendars, address books, contact lists, diaries, tapes, photographs, videos, emails, text messages, social media posts, and metadata associated therewith. Electronic and digital services, storage services, so anything you can store information on, including cell phones, computer towers, laptops, tablets, external hard drives, CD, DVD, thumb drive, or other storage, includes any device which may contain evidence of other accounts associated with this device, including email address, social media accounts, messaging, quote, app accounts, other accounts that may be accessed through a digital device that will aid in determining the possessor or user of the device, photographs or images, videos, even things that are deleted or manipulated, evidence of use of a device to conduct internet searches. So any type of thing you could search relating to a review of other murders or violent assaults or stabbings or cutting of people, as well as how to avoid detection after the commission of such crimes, including details of the King Road residence, the location, and information on any of the victims named, and then the surviving roommates. Information that can be used to calculate the position of the device between the above dates, including GPS, satellite coordinates, apps, IP logs, EXIF tags, all the rest of it. Evidence of identity of the person in possession of the device, such evidence digitally or not. Passwords, phrases, codes, patterns, fingerprints, and other usernames to operate any such device. So if they're searching your house and you have like a password notebook next to your computer, they're going to take that too. They have to ask for it. Indicia of residence in or ownership of possession of the premises. You know what they haven't talked about in this? The car. They're not looking for the car at all. Maybe it's because they knew that they had the car and they knew where they had all the ownership of the car, but they ask for nothing about the car. This is all specific to the residence in Washington and internet searches and social media usage and digital evidence, aside from the physical evidence, blood, etc. But nothing about the car. That's interesting. I wonder what they knew as to why they weren't looking for the car or information of the car there. The car at that time is in Pennsylvania, but not looking for paperwork with regard to car ownership or anything like that, because if they're searching the residence, wouldn't you also want to look for anything that indicates ownership of a white Elantra while you're searching, even though the car's in Pennsylvania? Wouldn't you want to look for the paperwork or ownership of the car? And you have to ask for that specifically. It's not like you got a search warrant for digital devices and you see a pink slip for a car and you can just take it. They didn't ask for that. So it's interesting that they weren't looking for indicia of ownership of the car, to me. But maybe they already had it. So let's see. All passwords, phrases, indicia of residence in or ownership, possession of the premises, including mail, receipts, identification bills. So this is for the tying him to that apartment. Assistance from any law enforcement agencies from the state of Idaho. So this is who's going to serve the warrant. Promptly return the warrant, signed by judge. A declaration. So this is going to be your application for search warrant declaration. This is your probable cause. This is Don Daniels, assistant chief at WSU Police Department, declare that I have personal knowledge of the matters, and then starts to list them. On the basis of the following, I believe there's probable cause that Brian Koberger has committed the crimes of murder in the first degree in Idaho. and burglary in Moscow, Idaho, and that, quote, evidence of these crimes, weapons or other means by which a crime has been committed or reasonably appears to be committed, is located at the apartment. And then they describe the apartment. Affiant, and then this gives the police officer's history. I'm a police officer at the Washington State University Police Department. Their training and experience has been employed since 1998, has investigated and assisted in the service of over 50 search warrants, which is, with this level of experience since 1998, low if you were working in a heavily active police unit, but not low considering it's university police. So persons providing information, and then they said where they got the information from. And these are the officers in Idaho that also were part of the probable cause affidavit that we've already covered on the channel. The investigation, I was contacted. So this is how this all went down. I was contacted by Moscow police officers and asked to assist in their investigation into the recent murder of 4 people in Moscow, Idaho. Sergeant Bleeker of Moscow Police Department had developed probable cause to believe that a resident of Whitman County, Brian Koberger, committed the murders. I agree with Sergeant Bleeker's statements that there is probable cause to believe that Koberger committed the murders and burglary, and that there is probable cause to believe that evidence of these crimes will be located at the apartment at location in Pullman. I am seeking the search warrant to search that apartment. The probable cause is described in detail in the attached Exhibit A. I imagine that's what we've already reviewed. I imagine that's the same probable cause declaration. A sworn statement of Sergeant Bleeker, which is hereby incorporated herein by reference, just as if fully set forth here. So that's going to be the one we already went over. I had to make sure my coffee was actually open. Okay, this is a restatement of what they are searching for that we already covered above. So same thing: dirt, dagger, skin, blood, clothing, DNA, trace evidence from DNA, et cetera, et cetera. So that we've already gone over what they're looking for, all of the digital evidence, and then physical. Supplemental disclosure regarding DNA tests. The court indicated that they did not consider this. So the court considered the probable cause declaration, but did not consider this information. I've been informed by the detective, J.R. Talbot of the Idaho State Police, that on November 13th, a sheath was recovered at the King Road residence under or next to the body of victim Madison Mogan. I inserted the word victim there in my brain. The Idaho State Crime Lab obtained a male DNA profile, suspect profile from the sheath. This is also referred to in Bleeker's sworn statement, Exhibit A. On December 27th, law enforcement agents in Pennsylvania recovered trash that originated from the Koberger family residence. The trash was sent to the Idaho State Crime Lab for testing on December 28th. The Idaho State Crime Lab reported that a DNA profile was obtained from the trash. It was compared to the suspect DNA. The lab personnel concluded that the source of the trash DNA from the trash can, not that it's like it's garbage, actually from the trash can, was a male not being excluded as the biological father. That's your familial DNA. We expect most of the male population would not be also the child of this father. The information is being provided to the court pursuant my duty and obligation to be fully candid with the court. But I am specifically asking the court not to consider the supplemental disclosure as evidence supporting the existence of probable cause. The reason for this request is that if the DNA test results are held inadmissible at some point, such a ruling would not impact the finding of probable cause for this warrant, so long as this court is satisfied with the probable cause regardless. Interesting. So they said, hey, we want to make sure that this search warrant is not based on familial DNA from the father. Please, Your Honor, base this search warrant on everything else, but not the familial DNA. Tell us that there is enough for probable cause to search without the DNA, and gives the reason why. That's very thorough and appreciated. And then they signed December 29th, so the next day, right before the arrest. Exhibit A. This is the search warrant affidavit that I have already gone through thoroughly in other content. Y'all are welcome. Y'all are welcome to go watch that other content on my channel. If you're new here, you can do the likey, subscribey things and know when I go live. I cover cases as a lawyer. But this we've already seen. So we're not going to go through it again. These pictures aren't any better than a little bit actually. These are a little minimally more clear than the other one. I'll keep that in mind next time we cover this affidavit. I'm sure we will cover it more. I didn't think we'd have any more come to light in this case. Actually, I was surprised that this got unsealed. Is that kind of disclaimer alternate standard to include? This is not standard. It is cautious. So this is them being cautious, and this is also them thinking they have enough probable cause without the familial DNA, so why bother? Because the familial DNA, there will be all kinds of motions over familial DNA, and down the road, these officers are like, it's not going to matter. Once they arrest him, they're going to take his DNA and retest it. The familial DNA will probably never be admitted, but the defense attorneys could go to court and be like, hey, they based this probable cause off of familial DNA that was evidentially improper for whatever reason, and then kick all the search warrants. If you kick all the search warrants and the search warrants are bad, then every piece of evidence that comes from the search warrant are considered fruit of the poisonous tree. So if the search warrant's bad, everything that comes from the search warrant is bad, and then everything gets kicked, everything they collected. So they are not wanting to mess with it. They're like, we have enough probable cause. We don't need the familial DNA. We don't, not for the search warrant. So with the arrest warrant, it's different. It can be different because it's different. But with this search warrant, they're like, don't even bother. We have enough. We don't need it. These are what was seized from the residence. 1 nitrite type black glove, 1 Walmart receipt with 1 Dickies tag, 2 Marshall's receipts, dust container from a Bissell Power Force vacuum, 8 possible hair strands. They're going to say possible because they haven't tested them yet, so you can't say for sure. 1 Fire TV stick with cord plug. I mean, Fire TV can access the internet, and it can also have things like email addresses to log into Hulu. By the way, I have a special on Hulu right now on Impact with Nightline. If you want to go see it, Jen Shaw, not a plug, but also a plug. Go watch it. And you can see how I do my hair when I'm on TV. And what I have to say about Jen Shaw. But 1 Fire TV stick with cord plug that can be used to search the internet, to access apps that have email addresses, and to show, I mean, if somebody's watching TV and changing through things, I don't know if it tracks that kind of information at the time of the murders. The defense is going to want to know that. 1 possible animal hair strand, 1 possible hair, 1 possible hair, 1 possible hair, 1 possible hair. It's interesting to me, not that the animal hair is separated out. That makes sense. It's interesting that there are 8 possible hair strands on item 5, and then these other hair strands are listed separately. It indicates to me that they were probably collected from different locations in the resident. So that's fair. 1 possible hair strand, 1 computer tower, 1 collection of dark red spot collected without testing. So they're not going to say, again, even if they believe it's blood, which they probably do, they're not going to say that it's blood. Assistant regional manager, A, iconic. B, yes. Well, yes-ish. They said possible animal hair. So do I think that that's probably a dog hair? Yes. Do they know without testing it? No. So that's why they say possible animal hair, because they don't know. They know it's a hair strand. They think it's animal hair, but they have to test it. So the 8 possible hair strands are probably from somewhere else. And these individual hair strands that get different numbers, because these will be tagged differently for evidence, are probably from different locations or different hair colors and things like that. So for items 8 through 11, 1 computer tower. Look, man, I've got a lot of hair and I have animals. That it's everywhere. Hair is everywhere, and hair is good evidence. Dark red spot collected without testing. So they're not testing it. They're sending it to the crime lab. Fair, especially if it's a small spot. And we're going to see this in the Murdaugh case when they're fighting over blood spatter and they're fighting over how much is retained for the defense to test, et cetera, et cetera. Not testing it on site is probably the better and safer plan. 2 cuttings from uncased pillow. So a pillow without a pillowcase of reddish brown stain, larger stain tested. So it sounds like there was a pillow with multiple stains on it, and they did test a larger stain. 2 top and bottom mattress cover packaged separately, both labeled C, multiple stains, 1 tested. So they recovered bedding. I don't know where this collection of dark red spot came from in item A. They will see. And then they've got all of the different things to test hair. And that's it. So that's what they collected. Just enough. It should be a nitrile glove. I might have read it horribly. Oh no, they did say nitrite. I don't know. I could ask Dr. B, but it might be. I don't know. Aren't these the types like dentists and stuff use? They're like a more specific type of glove, I imagine. So is it not weird that they found so little in his house? Maggie P, that is a fantastic question. This is over a month after the murders, and he's left and gone to Pennsylvania. So no, it's not odd to me. It would be more strange if this was the next day. But no, this is a month later. So no, or more than a month later. This is done like December 28th is when they applied, 27th. And the homicides occurred on November 13th. So more than a month later. So let's see. Nitrate gloves, I believe, are the black ones. Nitrile gloves are the blue ones. I don't know. Basically non-latex, yes. So yeah, I'm not surprised given the time that has passed. And we'll see what comes from it. They're going to test all these things. They're going to be looking for the hairs to tie back to the defendant being in the home of the murder victims. Now, will the defense come up with other explanations saying, hey, could he have been at the home at a party? Could he have been at the home at another time? They will probably say that or argue that. But also, this could be evidence that puts him at the home, or this could be evidence that is his own hair or a partner's hair or somebody else that is in his apartment. Is it weird for someone that has an apartment to have other people in their apartment to have multiple types of hair in it? No. So we'll see. It just depends on who it comes back to. Is this stuff that'll come up at preliminary hearing? Maybe not. Maybe not come up at preliminary hearing. It might not be needed, but could it? There's 6 months to preliminary hearing. Will all this testing be done? Yes. Is it going to go a long way if there is blood that is not this defendant's on his pillow or in his mattress? Mattresses being very absorbent. Can that go a long way? Yes. Could it be his blood? Yes. Could it be completely unrelated to this? Yes, it could be. So we will see. We will see what happens. But they did not find any weapons, but this is a month later, so I'm not surprised. They did not ask for or seek anything with regard to ownership of the car. They did not grab a laptop, but he was already in Pennsylvania. He's a PhD student. Would you take your laptop with you or ditch it? Maybe. Maybe. Or maybe he just has a tower computer. Some people be like that. Some people want their towers. They game better than laptops. So maybe he didn't have a laptop and just had a tower, but they took that. So that is what it is. I'm going to go to questions because we're almost 3 hours in. Thank you for asking your questions. Thank you for being law nerds. We're going to get to some more of the Q&A. I did want to cover that. It is just what it is. Emily, the familial DNA was only to prove Brian's identity. They already had his DNA that led him first. So Lynn, I'm going to go to, we have questions, and then I'm going to answer that and give you my thoughts on it. Katja said, I use nitrile and my current job color is dependent on supplier. I use both black and blue. Thank you. I mean, lots of people do use them. It's time for questions. Let's fack around. Y'all, if we bing, because I think we're pretty close to actually switching over. Where are we at? 679. If we do bing during this stream, I will do things with the voice changers, but we are close. So if you go ahead and do the YouTube things, I don't plug it a lot. It actually does help. And also, here's just a personal plug. My youngest does not believe I am officially a YouTuber until there is an M after my subscriber number. Why? Because Mr. Beast has an M after his subscriber number. Technoblade has an M after his subscriber number because Technoblade never dies. And so until I have an M after my subscriber number, I am not a real YouTuber. And I'm like, buddy, it's like 679. He's like, doesn't have an M. We had this conversation literally again yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. So just a reminder, thank you for helping me prove my value to my 10-year-old. Hey, buddy, mom was on Hulu. Doesn't care literally at all. He's like, whatever, YouTube's on the TV too. Buddy, there were like over 300,000 people on my live stream. He's like, still not an M though. My 10-year-old is savage. So thank you all for helping me get to 700,000 and beyond. And beyond. I appreciate it. So do the YouTubey things. I appreciate it. we're almost at 680. We'll bing. We'll do a surprise. All right, let's keep going. Can you read Miss Hoagslaw's post on Hoag's channel? Yes, I can. I had the pleasure of getting to message with Hoag the other day. It was delightful. For those of you that are new here, Hoag is a friend and a streamer and a lawyer who suffered a stroke on December 30th. And the community has not only been watching videos, but supporting his family. And his wife has been keeping everyone up to date on his community tab. So let's go look there first, and then we will get to the rest of our questions. Hello, YouTube friends. Miss Hoaglaw here again. Wanted to check in and give an update. We are thrilled, surprised, shocked at the progress Rick is making. We should not be. He always crushed any goal he set his mind to and is all in for rehab. And you guys, I will say the amount of support on his GoFundMe, I know has allowed his family to just focus on rehab. Correction, he had a bit of a stroke. Yes, those were his words on Twitter. So I had a bit of a stroke. Because Rick, I'm glad his sense of humor has been his sense of humor since he was out of surgery. So I know he will want to share more of his story with you himself, but we have agreed to share a little of what he's doing here. He has a 10+ person team working at his rehab. He gets multiple hours of therapy every day in a variety of areas. His team is fantastic. They are incredible people who all love what they do, rave about this facility, and of course, think Rick is the greatest patient. Rick is a great human. I'm not surprised. All of the joy, positivity, and humor we love about him shines through, even when he's doing the hardest thing he's ever done. He says it's even harder than training for a half marathon. Apparently, law school was no big deal. Rick is very, very smart. I'm not surprised that he was like, I go to like a top tier law school. It's like, whatever. Like I'm at the very top of my class, at the very top of a law school for very smart people, but like, whatever. I like that he said this harder than training for a half marathon. He wants you to know he is walking. He's getting around with the assistance of a wide base cane, but he is getting around, which is incredible because I know what he wants to do is to go home. It's incredible what the body can do, right? It's incredible how the brain can heal. I'm also happy to report that his work in progress means they want us to stay for more days than I was expecting. This intense rehab is important and necessary. Every day counts, which is great. And the support of the community allows them to do that. I want to thank you again for your support. It took Papa Hoag 3 trips to collect all the mail and packages from the office. That's amazing. On a lighter note, thanks to the kind person who sent the thoughtful gift to my children, there is now a no kazoos in the car rule. I know they got goats too. Y'all have thoughtfully and lovingly wrapped us in a hug, even from a distance. Whether you send a letter, a gift, a DM, a comment, a like, newly subscribed, thank you. We love you. New subs, gifted memberships, thank you. We love members. Patreon, Ultron. I don't know what Ultron is. Isn't that something from a movie? I don't know. Patreon, Ultron, shared or watched. It's all appreciated. Thank you for taking care of us, taking care of his space while he is away. You're doing a great job. It's an incredibly, I don't have words. It's incredible to see from where Hoag was December 30th when he had a stroke to where he was after surgery to where he is now. It's absolutely incredible. And I know for his family, knowing that they will be able to take care of medical bills, knowing that his YouTube channel is taken care of by so many of you that are going back and watching videos and subscribing and keeping it in YouTube's, algorithmic brain. It's absolutely incredible to see the love and the support and to see the progress that he is making. It was very fun to get to chat with him the other day in our group chat. So I am so encouraged. I know it's been terribly scary for their family, as of course it would be. And Hoag is Hoag. He's like, had a little bit of a stroke, kicked its ass, be back soon, like BRB. And I love that. I can't wait to embarrass him further and curse on his channel because I have a very, very Hoag. I have a very well-funded curse jar. It's very well-funded.
And we might have to tell you about Linda and her clam when you're back because it's a story that rivals the stacks. We'll do that when you're back.
We're not going to spike his blood pressure just yet. We're gonna wait until he's ready. So yes. And if you guys haven't seen me on Lawyers and Dragons, I played D&D from Vegas very early in the morning. I leave Hoag's old streams on during the day while I'm at work. That's amazing. DA's site is saying they've charged, according to Uncivil's chat. I don't know what's going on in Uncivil's chat. The DA gave, I'll go look before we leave, but the DA gave a statement saying they will charge. Could they have charged today? Yes. No more, Linda. Some of you are traumatized. Rick Hogo, I'm only using 10% of my power. Accurate. Never forget to unjam your clam.
Also accurate.
All right, let us go. Clam's Quest of the Missing Pearl. We have a new line of storying. We need to get to some of the super chats. Thank you all. And yes, I'm so encouraged. I'm so encouraged. And if you go to either my channel where Hoag's here or Hoag's channel where I'm on his channel, Hoag is just so wholesome. And I am, well, sometimes a total degenerate. So it's absolutely perfect because Hoag is like, Stacks? I have to find the live stream and I will link it to Hoag being on my channel the day we trended Wood Daddy Stacks on Twitter, #1 on Twitter. Yes, we trended on Twitter. It was, I have to find it and link it. I forget exactly which stream it was, but we'll find it. Because if you've not been exposed to my friends and how I embarrass them by saying things, that is a stream that you don't want to miss. It was, I don't know what, it was a Friday Night Live. And then it was like, oh, we haven't talked about Girardi with the guys. Guys, get on stream. And I had been drinking, and then the wheels came off. It was great. So I'm just, it was great. So I'll link it. So we have it down in the description for the replay crew. And for those of you that are new to the channel and have not seen the Wood Daddy Stacks stream, you can see it. Kristen asked the important question. Has Dr. B been updated about Linda's clam yet? So I will detail this more fulsomely elsewhere, but I read the book to Dr. B that we read on our members only stream last night, courtesy of These Are My Monkeys. And he was like, this entire thing, he's like, I can't laugh. I'm so uncomfortable. He was horrified. He's like, what is this? Like, what is this? And I was like, apparently it's a series. The mods let me know last night during our mod meeting. So we'll be going through that. Okay, let us Google real quick and go look at let's go look at if the Santa Fe, New Mexico DA is doing other things. Here's my thing. Why put out, I'm just checking and seeing if I have any other messages about it. Why put out a press release this morning if you're going to charge them later today saying we will be filing charges this month? Like, why even bother? If you're going to charge today, just wait and put out the press release and say you're doing it today. It doesn't make any fucking sense. I have the link to this DA's office real quick. No. Not that their website is great. I love how many of you are like, we're watching every single stream on the internet at once. We're watching all of them. There's no link for press releases. This website, first of all, can we not with the flashy? Like, can we not, like, what about our office? Stop it. I am not a graphic designer, but also just stop it. It doesn't need to move. It's a district attorney's office. That's one thing I will say for LA. The district attorney's office is very helpful, and their website, this website, I hate it so much. Diversion information. No. Victim assistance. No. Okay. Their website. This is home on their website. Stop it. This is not a website that endears the public. Let's just go with that. So let me see if we have any other statements. I'll go to Twitter and look, but I don't know why they would put out a press release and then literally do the thing they said they were going to do this month the same day and have to put out a different press release. I see nothing new from Shanley Painter. These charges will be happening, but the DA has said that they're coming sometime before the end of the month. So I'm going to go with that until I find something different. You know, Deadline has actually been updating this really well, so I'll go look there one more time. But the deadline headline is still Alec Baldwin and Russ Armour to face criminal charges over the 2021 fatal movie shooting, which means I'm going to go update my stuff too, because I think in my reel this morning I said had been charged. I'm going to go be addendum will be charged. Alec Baldwin, Hannah Gutierrez Reed will face criminal charges close to 16 months later. There is no update on this that they have been charged yet. So I think there's a lot. This is the thing with breaking news. It fluctuates. The user experience is horrible with this website. Yes. This is look how much money we can waste on our website. It's awful. What's the name of the show that Emily will be appearing on Hulu? I was on Impact, which is a Nightline show. And the name, I'm going to pull it up real quick. The name of the show starts with Jen Shaw. Let me grab it real quick. So the show is Impact. It's a ABC News Nightline show. It's a weekly news program. I am on episode 12, The Housewife Scam, The Real Life of Jen Shaw. I really liked their episode about Megan Thee Stallion too. Those are the only two I've watched so far, but I really liked the way they broke down the Megan Thee Stallion case. They didn't look at the law of the case so much. They looked at the societal backlash against Megan Thee Stallion. I thought it was really, really well done, and really interestingly done. Because there was, as I said, when people are like, "Are you covering this?" I'm like, "I am getting ready to go on vacation, and there's a lot going on around this case that I don't know." I didn't know that they had been in a relationship. Anyway, there was a lot going on surrounding that case on the internet that I was just unaware of. But they do a great job of breaking it down. So I really enjoyed that episode too. So that's Impact over on Hulu. And you can just search Impact. Did you know the name other prosecutor from LA? Lori, you're going to have to ask me more. I don't know. Question, did they search his university office? They didn't say in this unsealed search warrant, though they might have. And one of the things that's going to be interesting with the Brian Koberger case is he does work in criminology, or he's a PhD student in criminology. So some of the internet searches that might raise red flags as to someone else might contextually be okay. If you looked at my search history when I was a deputy district attorney of the fucking things I searched for work, all of them didn't have nefarious purpose. Could all of them seem like they had nefarious purpose? Maybe. The stuff we had to search was wild. Our IT department, the county IT department was like, you people can't have access to this. I'm like, I need access to YouTube at work because people are posting videos of the accident that I'm prosecuting, and I need to see what's being posted on the internet. So the countywide IT was just like, what the fuck are y'all doing over there? It's like, don't ask questions. We need access to the internet, not on our personal devices. And we need sometimes cordoned off access to the internet because there are shady places on the internet we may need to tread, but we need them to be sectioned off. It was wild. Anyway, so there are going to be some arguments of that, and the DAs will be mindful of that. Is this super specific? Is he searching for these victims, their places of work, or is it more generalized crime stuff? So we will see. All right, let us continue on. Let's see. Question. Sorry if you answered this, might have missed it, but why was the search warrant unsealed now? I thought the hearing was a couple months away. The preliminary hearing they said it would have unsealed by function of law next month, I think. They filed a motion saying it doesn't need to stay sealed. They probably are sick of getting requests for it, but they didn't say why. Does Emily stream members' vids on Patreon? Yes, I do. Last night we had a lot of YouTube issues. It has not been re-uploaded to Patreon yet. It'll be up in the morning. So that is it. Emily, I need access to YouTube at work. Also, Emily, I need to know how to buy drugs on the dark web for reasons. Most of the narcotic stuff I didn't have to search. It was other stuff that needed to be searched. The narcotics officers were pretty good about telling us that stuff. But yeah, I imagine the department was like, I know y'all say that you need YouTube for work, but I'm seeing a lot of y'all watching What Does the Fox Say? And I have fucking questions. Like, why so much? What does the fox say? It had a moment. We were gripped. Hide your kids, hide your wife. Also gripped. Big Mac rap. Also gripped. Look, early days YouTube. We enjoyed it. I still know all the lyrics to the Big Mac rap. Tell your kid he's not a real kid until he belts screams like a baby goat. That's fair. I will. K-Rab said acute rehab is hard and exhausting, and it is a good sign that they want him to stay longer. It was the hardest thing I ever experienced. That's everything I've heard about acute rehab, and I am so encouraged about how well he's doing. So I think we will see amazing things from Hogue. So the fact that he is walking is incredible. Ultron is Avengers, Megatron is Transformers. Thank you. I thought so. I didn't know there was a Patreon alternative called Ultron. From the Pix News Nation caught, it looked like they took more items from his apartment. Could some not be on this document? They know everything they took should be in the search warrant return. So they took bedding. Bedding can be big. If bedding was boxed up and taken out, it can be big. But no, everything is supposed to be on the search warrant return. The search warrant return lists not a ton of things. I mean, could you have put them individually? So just the dust bin or whatever from his vacuum cleaner in one big box and take it out in a box. Yes. Just the pillow cuttings in one box and take it out. Yes. So we don't know. But no, it all needs to be listed. Search Would Daddy Stack find 20-minute short video of a stream that started it all. It made me laugh over and over. And I will list the stream on my channel too. Question, okay to answer now or in the future. Whatever happened with the lawsuit Nick Cage's girlfriend in the 80s versus Tom Girardi? Please include the 80s photo album. I have not circled back to it. It's still going. Erica Girardi is still involved. A lot happened in the Girardi case in the last few days. There's more motions to exclude people. There's a lot going on in the Girardi case. So we haven't gotten back there. So I don't know exactly what's going on with the Nick Cage case because it was progressing. I'm sure there will be motions to dismiss at some point. Have you heard that BK allegedly used a fake account on Facebook commenting in a group about the murders and mentioned a sheath before it was public knowledge? I have heard rumors of that. If those are coming from leaks, it's going to be a problem. If that's internet speculation, then it's just internet speculation, governed with a grain of salt. If that is something that's known to prosecutors, they will be able to track back posting on Facebook to an IP address. So even through VPN, law enforcement can often track back to an IP address. So if it's coming from his IP addresses, they will be able to find it. And now they have all the devices too. So if that's something that bears out, it will bear out. So we'll see. Could that just be internet speculation? Yes. But when we're talking about a knife sheath and it's not known to the public, you've got more reason to believe it. Heck, I was going to wait for the PA defense attorney to go over this with the news media. I'm sure it'll happen. And then we'll talk about him talking about it. And it'll be very meta. Will the prosecutors in New Mexico subpoena ABC News for the raw footage of the interview he did in 2021? I would. I absolutely would. I would want to see everything that was filmed because those cameras are rolling from the beginning. Megan the Moon said, I donated and sent Miss Hoglaw a gift certificate, a few massages at my office. I'm local to them. He needs care, but so does she. She's a total rock star. Yes, and yes, and yes. And what a thoughtful gift, Meg. She absolutely needs care. Caregivers always need care, and it's often the last person that takes care of themselves. I've been watching all of the 8-hour H&H streams and also letting the ads play. It does help. Hope it helps. It does help. It does help. So if you want to support Hogan, it's like, look, I can't donate. That's not what's going to work for me. Watching videos on his channel with the ads also helps. You can donate with your time and energy and eyeballs and computers. I was going to say computer balls, but that was weird. But now we're there. Bring in Runkle. He did a video specific to how this gun works. He did. And Runkle of the Bailey is a gun expert and covers all the gun stuff over on his channel. If I brought on Runkle today, I would be streaming until 6 p.m. and I would never finish. I adore Runkle. I also don't know if he's working because Runkle still works as a defense attorney. It was an accident, but with negligence. Sue, I think that's a fair way to look at Involve. Melissa said, as part of the crew, as a past crew member on Rust. Melissa, that's information. Much love to Helena H and her family. She was such a bright light in our community. Thank you for covering this. Melissa, thank you for your input. And everything I've seen, every single thing I've seen about Helena was delightful. Everyone said she was a delight to work with, that she was creative, that she was wonderful, that she told stories through the camera, and that this is absolutely someone whose talent is gone from the world much, much too soon. So I'm sure that was a surreal experience. I'm sure all of this is a surreal experience. Make sure to take care of you. It's a lot to process. It's a lot to process. This is for everyone who worked on this and even the greater movie industry. This is a really traumatic workplace incident for everyone involved. And how do you go back to work feeling safe with any of this? It's wild. So yeah, it's wild. Check out Runkle's stream reviewing the Alec Baldwin interrogation with Seth Rosman, who has a company that loans guns to movie sets. Super informative, absolutely. And we will grab it and link it in the description down below too. Are negligent homicide and involuntary manslaughter the same? My ADHD self is always the most productive on live stream days with you in the background. Thank you for helping me clean my whole kitchen. I am happy to co-work with you. I know a lot of you bring me along to work. Next week, you're going to be living your best because I am going to be with you every single day, all day, every day, all day to cover the Murdaugh trial, gavel to gavel. So for those of you that are like, I just need Emily yammering in the background nonstop, welcome. We're getting into live trial coverage again. So it depends on the jurisdiction, but generally I don't want to say it's synonymous. Different jurisdictions describe things differently. In New Mexico, it is an involuntary manslaughter. In some jurisdictions, they might call it a negligent homicide. It is without the mens rea of intent to kill. So it just depends on the jurisdiction. Though I don't want to say it's the same because different jurisdictions define things differently. So in New Mexico, they're not going to be in one jurisdiction. You're not going to generally have both a negligent homicide statute and a involuntary manslaughter statute. Why would there be live rounds at all? There shouldn't have been. Agreed. Rule is a gun with a firing pin, bullets or no bullets, never pointed at a person. If he's told cold gun and lights are in his eyes, he may not have known she was still there. He needs to hush. That's a very fair point on lighting because they were blocking out. But in his ABC interview, and I break that down too on the podcast and here on video, he says that she was telling him, do this with the thing. And he's like this, like this. So I don't know if he's going to be able to argue it because based on his own statements, it seems that they were very close together and that he was looking at her and that they were within feet of each other. So I think though that could have been a good argument, he might have ruined that with his, statements that he made before there were criminal charges. Pat's Cat says, I was raised with guns. The last person to handle a gun checks it. Never trust the word. If the previous person, because you don't know for sure, if they knew 100%, I would have checked the gun. And that's going to be part of the argument here. TS Lizard Wizard. If the victim's family doesn't want the government to pursue criminal charges against Baldwin, do the charges get dropped? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. The job of a district attorney is to protect the community and enforce the laws of their locality and uphold the Constitution. There are times when cases are prosecuted over the objection of the victims because they don't represent the victims. DAs represent the people of the state or, and then the laws of the state. And so even if a particular victim is like, I really don't want to do this, they might go ahead anyway, especially if the victim is not going to be like the testifying victim. It's a little bit different when we're talking about assaultive crimes with a victim who has not been killed, that they don't want to come in. Oftentimes people don't want to come in, particularly in sexual violence, domestic violence, relational violence cases. And sometimes the DAs will proceed over the objection of the victim and you get very uncomfortable moments in court. So no, they won't necessarily drop it. Oftentimes they will. They'll take into account what the victims want before they'll even charge it. So, but not all the time. Katie said, he says he didn't pull the trigger. Reports you went over recently show the gun faulty fired when the hammer pulled back, but the trigger not being pulled in testing. Yes, they did. The FBI reports as described, I just need to pull the actual FBI reports if they're available. The FBI reports as described by Alec Baldwin's attorney in Alec Baldwin's lawsuit indicate that the gun did fire without the trigger being pulled. Absolutely did. They absolutely did. Why would they announce charges before charging it? I don't know. I don't know. I truly don't know. Just charge it and then say we did the thing. Fox is reporting that the DA explained that they will be charged in the alternative. Yes, and we covered that on CNN too. That was a while ago. Thank you, Anna. Sounds like crim law exam question, kind of. Yeah. Sarah said, if convicted, would Baldwin be a felon? Would that prevent him from owning or operating firearms? Yes. would that keep Rust from continuing production? Rust may continue production while charges are pending. These things can take time. I just can't imagine it. It just seems so odd. It just seems so odd. Question, are your glasses purple? I love them. My glasses, the frames are black. The tint is a gray purple. They are Erlen tinted glasses, which help me not just read, but help with both the dyslexia and ADHD. They are specific. They've also had the wonderful side effect of reducing my migraines because I am light sensitive. Question, do you think Walshy will blame his 6-year-old since it was his iPad? I have not covered this case yet. I don't know enough about this case yet, so I cannot comment on it yet. In any criminal case, what I think is that everybody will stop talking. But that didn't happen in this case either. The familial DNA was only to prove Brian's identity. They already had his DNA that led it to him. This is what I wanted to come back to, Lynn, and I'm sorry it took me a while to circle back around. I got distracted. So the familial DNA, I think when they went to Brian Kohberger's parents' residence, they weren't sure if he was if they would get his DNA from the trash. So from the sheath, they had a suspect profile. They thought the sheath belonged to the suspect. It makes sense. These were murders perpetrated by stabbing. They have a knife sheath on a bed. The knife sheath has DNA on it, and they have a profile for that person. What they didn't have was that profile matched to an identity. So they had the profile, but not the profile like, oh, and this DNA belongs to this person. That DNA clearly was not in the system because otherwise it would have matched if that DNA had been in the system. So then they took the trash and tried to get DNA off the trash. Cups, food, plastic utensils, whatever it was that they got the DNA off of. I think they were hoping to find Brian Kohberger's DNA. What they found was other male DNA that they linked to being his father. But after he's arrested, they will take Brian Kohberger's own DNA and they will test it against what was at the location, and they will not use the familial DNA again. I think they were hoping to get Kohberger's DNA from the trash, and they ended up with his dad. But yes, they used it in the arrest warrant, and but I don't think they will use it. I don't think we will see that again unless they litigate that warrant. But in prelim, if they test his DNA and it matches, they will just do that. So our case that I still love Fitz News. What is the beef Mandy Matney has with Fitz News? I don't think there is a beef. I don't know. I don't want to support if it's, I don't know of any beef. I think, and if there's beef, I'm probably not aware. I don't think there's any beef. I haven't seen any. It seemed like when Mandy Matney left Fitz News, it seemed amicable from the statements I saw put out online. If there's anything deeper than that, I'm not aware of it. But I also think Mandy Matney had a very busy job at Fitz News and was also running the Murder on Murders podcast. And I imagine got to a point where both things couldn't work together and struck out on her own. That was what I thought. I didn't know if there was beef or drama or anything like that. But I don't know everything that happens on the internet. I tend to just stay on my lane. Introduced you to my son over the holidays. We now yell at each other over text. Thank you for all you do. Best you in 2023. Elaine, turn on your microphone. I hope it's like, Elaine. I hope those are the text. Quick Bits is excellent. I love the stream so we can watch your brain work. And the Quick Bits is like the polished exec summary of the stream. It is. And that was the goal with Quick Bits. So I have a second channel. It's called Quick Bits. On Fridays, I'm releasing a Quick Bits podcast. It's also on your favorite podcasting app where I summarize everything I covered in the week in a quick bit. So that, and in a like curated way so that you get, oh, this is just what happened this week quickly. And that's what it is. Let's see. The DA may want to look at the design print of that gun because it doesn't cock. That means the hammer can't lock in place unless someone modified. I'm sure they've looked at it. Well, I'm sure the FBI crime lab has told them to look at it. The victim's family doesn't want the government to pursue criminal charges against Baldwin. Do the charges get dropped? We got that one. Odds on if it will be tried at the same time. We haven't seen the charging documents yet, so I can't answer yet. What I will look for is, are they charged as co-defendants or are each of them charged as separate defendants of 2 counts? And that will give us a lot more information. If they're separate defendants, they will not be tried together. If they are filed on together, if they are charged together, they could be tried together, but the defense can also ask to have those separated, which we saw with like the Elizabeth Holmes, Sunny Balwani trials. They ended up being separated. So unknown at this point. Possible. Either's possible. Having 5 cats and 2 birds, I can't commit a crime anywhere. I find feathers at work sometimes. Also, anyone who comes to my house carries evidence with them. Yes, me too. My hair is everywhere. It's in cars. It's in every car I ride in. My hair is all over the place. My cat hair is all over the place. That I found cat hair inside my pants the other day. I was like, how in the cat hair? Cat hair. I assume in the washing machine. It's everywhere. The FBI report stated the only time the weapon discharged without a trigger pull was after they physically broke the mechanism, attempting to make it discharge without the trigger pull. Lawyer misled. And that's interesting, Justin. I need to just pull the FBI report. I think Runkle went over it too, and we will go through it. But yes, when lawyers write things, it gets filtered through advocacy. I trained as an armorer for film and theater. There never should have been live bullets agreed anywhere near set, but those are Canadian rules. Still IATSE. No, there never should. I think there never should be anywhere. Ever. There never should have been live rounds on this set. Agreed. EDB, I sent you an email for information about this and it runs on the set. My team and I will look for it. Thank you. So, could you, with your expertise, compare this case to the Brendan Lee? I don't have enough information on that to do it yet. But I can do an episode looking at the two together. It would just take a little bit of time and some research. Why were there so many live bullets? I don't know. So yeah, I would have to look into it because there was no criminal case there. In your opinion, could the second charge relate to endangering the public crew? We covered the second charge, so now our questions are answered. Emily D. Baker. Nicholas is his PR attorney, not a criminal defense attorney. He's the one who made the other boneheaded statement after the civil suit was filed against Baldwin. The "we will win" is a strong statement. Criminal attorneys are going to be like, shh, and now we're done. Let's see. Treat, never, keep, taught it in the Marines. Would have saved him charges had he followed the same sort of rules. Gun safety seems to be kind of finite on how it works. The helpful stranger. How do you say she told me to point the gun at her heart and fiddle with the boom thingy without sounding like a dick? I mean, I don't think you can. Serious question. That's basically what he's saying. Check the gun. This is avoided. If anybody had, this is avoided. And it seems like there were a lot of red flags that they overrode. Emily says it's called furniture for a reason. My friends joke that they always bring my bright orange hair home with them after game night. Not surprised in a home of 3 ladies with long hair that they are looking for hair. I'm not surprised either. And I think Brian Koberger has short, dark hair. A lot of the victims have long blonde hair. So it's hair that's probably visually easily distinguishable. And then they're able to be like, so. Question. So the blood in the apartment was found on a pillow and bedding. They collected dark spots that they have not tested. So presumed, or could be presumed, or might be, maybe, from a uncased pillow from, let's just pull it up exactly and get the words exactly right. So there is a collection of a dark red spot collected without testing. That could be from anywhere. That could be from a couch. That could be cut out of a carpet. That could be from anywhere. We don't know where that's from. That could be from clothing. It could be a shoe. We don't know. If it's a shoe, it should stay a shoe, but whatever. This could be wherever. We don't know where this dark red spot was collected from without testing. It could be collected from somewhere. 2 cuttings from uncased pillow of reddish brown stain. So these are cut out of a pillow. 2 top and bottom mattress cover packaged separately. So it sounds like there are 2 different mattress covers that have a top and a bottom and that they are packaged separately. So I don't know if it's 2, the top being one and the bottom being one, or if there are 2 mattress covers and each has a top and a bottom. Don't know. So that's where that all came from. So that's as clear as I can make it. It reads like there are 2 mattress covers, but these are things the defense are just going to go look at what they have. So, and these could be any different kinds of mattress cover, or it could be a mattress cover and a fitted sheet, whatever. So, question, did you miss the part about searching his office at WSU? This was for his house. So this is all from the residence and stored at WSU. I didn't see anything in here about them searching his office. If they applied to search his office, I would imagine it would be a different search warrant, because in this search warrant, they asked specifically to search the residence. Excuse me, that was my nose. So this is specifically for the apartment. There is nothing in this particular search warrant about the office. If there is a separate search warrant that has been unsealed, this is not the one that I pulled up. Jennifer said it's in there. This search warrant, let's see, we're going to go back. Asks, wait, that's the probable cause affidavit. Because it's entirely possible. Let's go to what they are asking. Oh no. Let's go to what they are asking to search. Oh, that's the attachment. Hold on while I scroll. Hold, please. Hold, please. Hold, please. Always search. Got a little loud. Let's see. We're gonna find it. All right. So, what they said is that they wanted to search the apartment, and they detailed the apartment. Could they have also got information from searching his office that is in there? Maybe, but this is just to search his location. So did they drop information in here about also searching his office and taking things from his office? That is what I will go look for real quick. Let's see if I can control. Let's see if this will search. Let's see. Officers. I want to see if it says office. Officer. These are all officers. Let's see. Because I'm hoping if it says office, it'll say office. These are all officers. Let's see. Based on my training and experience, when someone plans an event or action, one likely location for doing so is in their residence or office. One would not want to conduct such planning in public if they were planning a criminal act, and so it is even more likely that planning of a criminal act would be done in one's residence or office. These murders appear to have been planned rather than a crime that happened in a moment of conflict. I believe it's likely that Kohberger planned his actions ahead of time. These plans may have included a review of other murders or violent assaults, stabbing, cutting of people, as well as how to avoid detection, details of the neighborhood. Further, based on my training and experience, criminals utilize digital technology. So this is why they want this digital search warrant. Therefore, probable cause to believe devices were used. In furtherance of the crimes and listed crimes, let's go on and see if there are other instances. There are other instances. Let's see. Of office. Indicia of residence in ownership or possession of the premises or any of the above items. I am seeking a search warrant for Kohberger's office to search for. So this is going to be a separate warrant for the office. And this is what they're going to search for at the office. So the same thing, it looks like that they're searching the home for, that they are searching the office for. But this search warrant affidavit is just for the location, and the return is for the location. So we're going to have to look. We're going to have to look for the other office return. They do have the office lawyer, read it. I'll go look for what the return is from the office because I haven't seen the search warrant return for the office yet, but I'll go look. I can't finish it today. We'll cover it. We'll cover it maybe in quick bits. So clearly there was a second search warrant for the office. Let's see. And they list it based off my information. I'm seeking a search warrant for Kohberger's office at the University of Washington. I have probable cause to believe evidence of the crimes committed at the King Road will be found in the office, located, and then they located the office. It's common for individuals to keep documents, records, or information of the type described above in their office, and Kohberger's office is the other location identified where this evidence could be found based off of the WSU website. His office is in the Wilson Short Hall. Then they describe the hall. They describe the office. The number 12 is a student office shared by Kohberger and two fellow WSU students, and then they list them. Kohberger has been confirmed by one of the students who utilizes the office. On December 29th, investigators visited the office and Koberger's name is on the outside based on the information. I'm also seeking a search warrant for the office on the campus because they might keep records there. So the search warrant return from the office, this is the residence, but the search warrant return from the office is not included in what I have. So I'll go look for it. So let's see. Question, how become this was unsealed? So why is it unsealed? They made a motion to unseal it. Why they chose to unseal it now? I don't know. So I don't know why they did it now. Let's see. News Nation is saying, from what I see, that there was nothing notable in the office. They might not have gathered anything, but I would want to see the return. Or maybe there's no return. But even if there was a return, the return would say nothing taken. So did his text messages get released already? I haven't seen text messages released from Brian Koberger or from Alec Baldwin. So if there are, I have not seen them. Okay. With that, I know there are a few super chats I did not get to. There is new info from page 19 of the document. Well, let me go to page 19. I think we went through, though, to be fair, we did not go line by line on the search warrant affidavit. There might have been things that were not in the search warrant affidavit. Let's see. That were not in the search warrant affidavit, or not in the probable cause affidavit that was unsealed. So let's see. What I am... Oh, there's two different page 19s. All right, let me go look and see. I think that's what we just covered. So this is page 19 here, but it's page 35. I'll go look at both. But the King Road residence, it contained a significant amount of blood from the victims, including spatter and cast off, blood stain pattern resulting from blood drops released due to motion. That doesn't surprise me. This makes it likely the evidence was transferred to person, clothing, or shoes, but it's a month later. And then they talk about the locations. Let's see. Well, I believe Koberger is visiting family in Pennsylvania over the current school break. I believe he intends to return for the start of the semester, so I expect his belongings to still be in the residence. Oh, well, they did have to tie it to why they can still search and why they might. To date, we have not recovered a weapon used. One likely location for the weapon or any sheath would be in the residence. That's fair. What I will do before Quick Bits is go back through and read this line by line, because we did not have time to do that today, and juxtapose it to what is released from the previously unsealed search warrant affidavit. Did he have them packaged separately, or did they package them? Why would he package dirty items? Oh, no. No. This is the police would have packaged things separately to take them into evidence. I'm thinking about the movies like Matrix. We haven't heard of anyone hurt by bullets, I assume because they took proper precautions. Imagine the injuries were prevented since The Crow. That's true. And a lot of those are special effects, which is fair. Even like arrows in the Hunger Games and stuff were special effects. Honestly, the fact that his phone was turned off during the time frame of the crime and him being privy to digital data due to the area of study makes him extra sus. Him turning off his phone will definitely come up because they will need to explain why. So let's see. When is the next members only? Next month. We did one last night. And with that, y'all, probable cause to search based on the crime. Oh, yes, that's what we were at. So what do we need to know? A few things. Housekeeping that I should have done at the top of the show, but didn't. So if you made it this far, thank you. We are rolling out a new text crew. So if you are in the text crew, you will get multiple messages from me today. You will get a new number, who's this message, and you will get a message to the existing text crew. If you ever want to stop the text crew, you just need to text stop, but we are switching over providers and changing over numbers to do that. If you want to stay apprised of what's going on with coverage of the Murdaugh case that starts next week, when I'm going to be covering and all of that, I will be sharing that out with the text crew. I use that a lot for notifications in trial. I'm going to have to get it set up to use it for notifications for members because YouTube just absolutely shit the bed on that yesterday. But that's at textemily.com. So if you're on your mobile device and go to Text Emily, you can sign up with your mobile number in North America. Should work in North America. So if for our Canadians, if it doesn't, I apologize. So the text crew is North America. For those of you that want to stay up to date with better notifications, you can also follow me on Patreon. You don't have to pay to follow me. I make public posts of when I'm going live. And so you can see that. And you can see the post made on Patreon. So if you go to my Patreon at lawnerdsunite.com and go to the bottom, it says follow, and you can just follow it without having to pay for a membership, and you'll get emails when I make public posts. So unfortunately, International Text Crew, the international laws with regard to text message is very difficult. So US, Canada, Mexico for now, but it is very much harder to roll out an international text crew because of rules and regulations. So with the new text crew, textemily.com will let you sign up for it. It has to be signed up through a link. If you want to go to Law Nerds Unite and sign up for Patreon notifications, there is a follow button. Let me see if I can show you. I don't know if I can. I have to log out as me. Let me see. Let me get signed out so I can show it. Or actually, the public page should do it. Okay. Let's see. If you go to if you go to lawnerdsunite.com, and this is what the page should look like. You probably won't have all the notifications on the side. This is what the page will look like without all of my notifications in the side. I swear there's a lot of them. Select a membership level. You can do that if you want. You don't have to. But down at the bottom, you can just go to follow. And if you go to follow, you will get notified of all the public posts, and you'll be able to see the public posts. So some of these are locked and you have to become a Patreon. Some of them are unlocked and they are public, so you can see them. So that is over there, and you will get notifications if you follow, because I understand not everyone can choose to pay to be part of the community. I get it. But for the international crew, this is a great way to do it. So follow. That can help. LawNerdsUnite.com will get you there. Question, why not use WhatsApp? Because I haven't figured out how to use a WhatsApp crew for the international group yet. So for the new text crew, I will be sending out a message. Some of you we were able to port over and you will get a message. Some of you were not able to port over depending on when you signed up. So I will be sending out new message who this. If you're in the text crew and don't see one of those new phone who this messages, you will need to sign up again, but I will tell you how to do it in the text crew. For those of you that aren't in the text crew yet, I haven't been promoting it. Why? Because we've been changing over providers and I didn't want you to have to go through all of it. So textemily.com. Next week, Murdaugh coverage. Friday, that's tomorrow. Quick Bits podcast and on YouTube. That's Emily D. Baker Quick Bits. We're going to have a vanity URL for it. We don't yet, but you can also search Quick Bits for your favorite podcasting app. It is live there. So that will be up tomorrow. I will share it out. So Quick Bits is my second channel with the roundups, the weekly roundups. We started that last week. I don't know why this is popping off, but yes, Quick Bits is over there. So you can go see the Quick Bits channel. If you are interested in that content, we're at like 106,000 subscribers. So thank you. And that's also on your podcasting app if you just want to listen in the background. Y'all, we are almost at 680,000 subs. So go ahead and hit the like and subscribe. Those are all the housekeeping matters. That's everything we have to do. So the Murdaugh trial starts next week. Jury selection starts on Monday. I don't think that will be televised, which means my coverage will start Tuesday, but I will post all over all the places to let you know so you don't miss a minute. I will be rounding all of this up for you tomorrow. There is lots to know. I'm going to go update my own content to make sure that it's very clear that these are pending charges and who's been charged, whatever. We've learned a lot today together. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a law nerd. If I missed anything, I'm sorry. What planner are you using this year? I'm like currently in between 3, but I'm liking the different ring bound systems I'm trying. So I have not settled yet. Are you covering Murdaugh? Yes, every day. All day, every day. I got a little travel in there. It's hard. I got a little travel in there, but we're going to do our best. I know other people are covering it. If I'm going to miss any streams, I will let you know who's covering it. I believe Peter's covering it and other things. So with that, it is time to say goodbye. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a law nerd. It's been 3 hours. It's time. I gotta go. You gotta go. We've got things to do. I will see you around social media. I will see you in Quick Bits tomorrow, and then I will see you next week. Bye.
You can find all the Law Nerd goodies at lawnerdshop.com. Connect with me on social media at the Emily D. Baker. And don't forget to check out my podcasts, The Emily Show, and the new podcast, Quick Bits, summarizing everything I talk about on my Tuesday and Thursday live streams. You know, when you only have time for just the quick bits.